I speak to you all under the shadow of a heavy and far-reaching military defeat. Singapore has fallen.
It does not feel like the war's going well. He needs some successes, and something interesting is turned up. It's crucial to the bomber offensive. They have an idea that this thing exists. They can hear the signals, and they would really, really, really like to get their hands on it. Here is a smash and grab job to seize that radar. It's new, and we need new ideas because the old ideas have failed. They're inventing the techniques. It's not been done before. What might they have up their sleeve?
Being able to get technological edge over your enemy is really vital.
But they're going to now have to rely on airborne forces.
This is a stealth strike and dash. So they're going to come in low.
It's a 2-hour window. They're getting their best people together. A mixed force of motor gunboats, landing craft assaults,
Got airborne forces,
super experienced bomber crews.
and yet the men who've been asked to do this, they're brand new, aren't they? Literally, the stakes couldn't be higher.
Prepare for the green light, and it is go. Welcome, everyone, to We Have Ways of Making You Talk with me, Murray and James Holland, and we offer you, at last, some good news from February 1942.
Ah, thank goodness. I mean, you know, it's been really, really hard work.
Having dragged ourselves through the disasters of the Channel Dash, and this is only a fortnight after the Channel Dash, by the way. This happens. What's amazing about the first half of 1942 is an awful lot happens, and at breakneck speed. But this is something that we can warm the cockles of our listeners' hearts with.
That we could cheer about.
Exactly.
Fly the flag for Team GB.
And for the Maroon Machine, because this is a great victory for nascent airborne forces.
So Johnny Frost, I thought he was a West Country man.
No, he's a Scot.
I thought he was a posh squire, a sort of yeoman of the Shires.
That's where he ends up, but he's a Scotsman. He's the son of a general. He's been working with the Iraq levies.
With his hunting horn.
Exactly. He misses 1940. He misses the disaster in France. Anyway, this is, I think we can call this an unmitigated success, this raid. And you could argue, and I think I might, that this is the only totally successful British airborne operation of the Second World War. But what this is also about is the electronic war.
So really, what you're saying is this has got a little bit for everyone. It's got airborne forces, it's got tech,
boffins,
high-end electronics.
Louis Mountbatten as well, Jim. I'm basically, there's a trail of breadcrumbs here to cheer James Holland's heart, everybody. As we all know, right, in the electronic war, the British have the advantage with the cavity magnetron, Jim's favourite device. If you're a regular listener, you know that the cavity magnetron, that's your number one item, isn't it, in what wins the war for the Allies, right?
Yes, and I would say my most common mentions are the awful weather of the winters and the cavity magnetron.
Yeah, there we are, right? Okay.
But, you know, that's reassuring in its own way.
It is. And this is Randall and Boot's genius invention at Birmingham University, gifted to the Americans for mass production. They take it over, they say, can you please mass produce this for us? And you can have it as well. And while the British have got the edge with this, they really need to find out what the Germans are about in terms of radar. And it's crucial to the bomber offensive, which is, after all, let's not forget, at this stage of the war, it's the cornerstone of British strategy.
Still is, even though they're rubbish.
Even though they're rubbish. And the Navy have buttoned down the Atlantic by this point. It's the turn of 41 into 42.
Yeah.
As we all know, the Kriegsmarine Surface Fleet has been successfully bottled up in Brest until the Channel Dash by Bomber Command. But they're really turning their attention to how do we make this work? And they really want to know what the Germans have got in the way of radar. They want to get across to Europe undetected, or at least with proper countermeasures in place, right? And it's absolutely key. This is key to the bomber strategy, which is, apart from the fighting in the desert, all that Britain has got in a way of prosecuting the war against the Germans. The heavies are coming, and so they need to figure this out. And at the centre of this electronic warfare campaign is R.V. Jones, stone cold boffin, 100% legend, And he's had brilliant success in bending the Knickerbeam beams, the X, the Y Gerät. And he's done a great job against the German Blitz in coming up with electronic countermeasures to blunt the German Blitz offensive. Because of his experience in the Blitz, he wants to know what can he do to the Germans in return and what might they have up their sleeve. And they know about the Freya radar, which is a longer range radar, but there's this other ingredient in the German radar system. In lots of ways, this is like chain home and chain home low. Right? The Germans have got a longer range radar and then a shorter range radar. For the uninitiated, that's the British RDF radio direction finding. You have the long range aerial that sees the formations far out, and then the shorter range aerial that can actually count the numbers more accurately and ascertain their direction. And so the Germans have a thing called the Würzburg radars, which are made by Telefunken. And there's a series of radars through the war from A to D. And the Germans had developed these before the war, and the Würzburg A system is rolled out as a mass-produced item. And the British think it's a gun-laying radar. That's what they're really worried about. They can actually lay their guns with this Würzburg radar. And they're worried about this because that's their own aspiration. They want that kind of tech themselves. And they're also worried if the Germans have got a gun-laying radar, getting bombers over the coast into Germany is going to be that much more difficult. As it turns out, and as we'll see, the Würzburg A in particular, which is the piece of kit at the centre of this story, isn't that sophisticated in practice. But it's got an 18-mile range, and it's accurate to about 25 metres in range itself. So it could give you a good radio direction and range. And it's got a paraboloid dish antenna. You know, it's what we think of as a radar with a big dish. The dish can be folded in half so it can be moved. The Germans, if they want to move the radar, they could take it elsewhere. And if there's a bigger dish that could be fitted to this thing that improves what it can do, but that means it's a static piece of kit. And it's accepted in service in 1940, and the 4,000 of this basic radar set are ordered and delivered, and improvements follow. So obviously, the British, they have an idea that this thing exists. They have an idea that it's out there, and they would really, really, really like to get their hands on it so that they can come up with the electronic countermeasures they need.
It is very like chain home and chain home low, isn't it? The two versions, Freya and Würzburg together.
Yeah, exactly. And they know about Freya because they can hear Freya. They can hear the signals. They're listening and they can see the signals. And
also R.V. Jones had worked that out in 1940, hadn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And, Freya is, of course, named after a Norse goddess, but Würzburg is the mystery. And there is some irony here, right? That the bomber war people who've exerted their primacy via the air ministry over the airborne people, they won't give them planes. They won't give them training time. They give them one aircraft in 1940, the air ministry. It's this out-of-date thing that no one wants to use. Even by this stage, nearly 2 years later, access to aircraft is basically very, very hard for airborne forces. But they're going to now have to rely on airborne forces for this part of the jigsaw in their air war. And there's a bargain to be struck with this operation. So our story starts on the 15th of November 1941. An RAF photographic reconnaissance unit aircraft takes pictures of the coast north of Le Havre, and something interesting is turned up. There's the cliffs. There's a villa with a road that runs down to it and then sort of bends round it, a bit like like it's been hooked. And right between the villa and the cliffs, there is a black mark.
And it looks like there's a sort of country house at the end of a road, isn't there?
Yeah, it's a country house at the end of a road. And there's a little black mark between the cliffs and the country house. They know that there's a Freya station up the road, but they know from the transmission footprint there's something else there. So R.V. Jones and his assistant, Dr. F.C. Frank, so we're in full boffin territory here. They look very carefully at this house, the villa. They think in broad daylight there, it's got to be a Würzburg. So they order low-level PRU because they can do that. So on the 4th of December, 1941, Flight Lieutenant Tony Hill, DFC, goes in at super low level and sees the apparatus in this loop in the road and says it's some sort of electric bowl. And he takes pictures and they don't come out properly. So he goes back the following morning and has another look. And this time he captures perfect pictures. And the thing is, the picture is absolutely amazing. The Germans have done a diabolically poor job of disguising the Würzburg.
Basically, they paint it black, right? I mean, that's it, isn't it?
They painted it black. It's piss poor. Let's be honest now. And Jones is extra excited because the Würzburg is perched right on the cliffs in wide open space. Below the cliffs is a beach. There is a village nearby. And immediately, RV and FC, so RV Jones and FC Frank, start to wonder about a raid to capture the radar set. And Jones is really unhappy.
I say, RV, what do you think? I think we can get some of our commando chaps in there, don't you? All right, folks.
I don't know. I'm rather nervous about the prospect of risking lives, but it's too tempting. Oh, boy.
Pass me another ginger nut, will you, FC?
It's the last ginger nut left in England. He punts the suggestion up to Combined Operations HQ. So this is really important, right? Because they're up at Lochfine, and this is an interesting moment with Combined Operations HQ because they're under new management. This is an important part of the story. So Admiral Keyes, who's the hero of the Zeebrugge Raid of 1918.
Sir Roger,
and he has been fired and he's been replaced by an altogether different character, a thruster, let us say, Lord Louis Mountbatten. This happens in October 1941, so just before this story gets going. And he's a, royal family smoothie. He's quite the operator. And Keyes is then sort of shuffled off and promoted, but fired. He goes on to suffer smoke inhalation visiting the USS Appalachian when it's attacked by the Japanese and dies as a result.
And it's his son who's killed, isn't it? His son is killed trying to assassinate Rommel.
That's right. Yeah. And Keyes has overseen Operation Colossus, the failed airborne operation earlier in 1941. And basically, what you have here, though, is new management, right? And new aspirations for Combined Ops headquarters, because they've been trying to perfect this butcher and bolt operations that Churchill wanted. Commando raids, so Lofoten Islands and so on. But Mountbatten is more ambitious. He wants to have an effect, and he wants Combined Operations to expand and the operations to get bigger and bolder, because they're the way forward. It's amphibious landings, which require air superiority. It's what's going to have to happen. And Mountbatten wants to make this join up and work. And I think what's really interesting about Combined Operations HQ, though, it's just a staff organisation. It has no actual forces on its order of battle.
So in other words, it can call upon forces when it needs them.
Yeah, exactly. That's the idea. Yeah. And there are commando units being put together, and there are landing craft specialists and all this sort of things. But he doesn't have an order of battle. He doesn't have an all-bat. And the idea is it gets people to work together. They pitch. They come and pitch projects, and then the headquarters gets the forces together to carry out these operations. And Mountbatten sees the very basic issue very, very clearly. He needs some successes. Combined Operations Headquarters needs some proof of concept. D-Day is down the road somewhere. And the other people who need some successes are British airborne forces. Their story, is they've been formed in complete reaction to German airborne successes in 1940 and 1941, which are dazzling, modernistic, glamorous. They're packed with tactical innovation and surprise.
And also huge losses.
Well, yeah, and lots of dead Fallschirmjäger. Yeah, that's the other thing to remember. Churchill thinks, right, this is what we need. It's modern, it's new, and we need new ideas because the old ideas have failed. Because the old ideas, the old way of doing things, the attempt to fight the First World War again in Northwest Europe has failed. The Air Ministry, however, as we've said, has other ideas. Bombers. The bomber offensive is what's going to win the war. And they do everything they can to throttle the new venture. And even as the Army and RAF are setting up the landing school, and people lower down are cooperating, but the people at the top are just not interested. And you get, the special service brigades are then split to create 2 special service brigade, or 11, depending on how you read the numerals, is turned into Special Air Service Battalion, the 2nd Special Air Service Battalion, or 11 Special Air Service Battalion. But they can't get recruits. They're hard to come by.
Why not?
Because basically, if you've got keen men in your infantry battalion who want to go off and join some new unit, you want them to stay because they're keen.
Yes.
And the rest of the army are very, very unhappy about commando and airborne forces, which is the same thing at this point.
Creaming off the cream.
Yeah. Losing the people who know what they're doing, losing the motivated people, particularly when the army is in crisis and needs to figure itself out, shake itself down. And so what they often do is send troublemakers and people that are no good. And Frost complains that they're getting the dregs at one point, that they're just getting all the people with poor disciplinary records and stuff. They're being dumped on them. And their only proper show that 2 SAS battalion do is Operation Colossus, which is an out-and-out balls up. The attempt to destroy the Trojano aqueduct in February 1941. There's poor intelligence. They actually don't know how many aqueducts. They think there's one, there's two. Drops are scattered. The demolitions land in the wrong place. A disastrous exfil. The Navy cancelled the submarine. Negligible results. And yes, the Italians do have reinforced places it hadn't before, and it makes a stirring propaganda story. But Colossus fails on its own terms, which is that they're going to blow the Trojano aqueduct up and starve Barry of fresh water, cause a crisis within Italy. But by the end of 1941, there is an airborne division. It's the Parachute Regiment now. They're not Special Air Service anymore. There's one brigade of paras and the 1st Air Landing Brigade, which is formerly the 31st Infantry Brigade, which is a mountain brigade. This whole thing's being driven by Major General Frederick Boy Browning.
He is the commander of the airborne division.
Yeah. Such as it exists. And he's a very natty guardsman. No one really knows how he gets this job, but he's super connected. And he has Brigadier Richard Windy Gale devising stuff. So Browning's doing the networking and the pushing with the War Office and the Air Ministry, and Gale is doing the thinking and picking the officers and recruiting. And they need a success. They need something, an op to go well for proof of concept, because otherwise what's going to happen is they'll never get the aircraft and the thing will wither on the vine. They'll all have been wasting their time, and then they'll be turned into normal infantry. And these chaps all regard themselves as rather special, and they don't want that. So Jones's suggestion of seizing the Freya reaches Combined Operations Headquarters at exactly the right moment for Mountbatten and for Browning.
It's the perfect storm.
And although the obvious way to do the raid is to come in by ship, Combined Operations Headquarters settles for an airborne operation, but they think if boats come in, they may get spotted and the enemy will have time to react. With an airborne landing, they will not have time to react.
So they're going to come in low, because you don't want to miss and end up in the drink.
No, exactly. The site is basically perfect.
And by the way, Al, what else is around? You've got that isolated house, you've got the Würzburg, you've got the little drive with the horseshoe-shaped driveway outside the front of the house. What else is around there? Is it just sort of flat openness?
There's flat openness. There's a radar station to the north, which houses the Freya. There's a thing called La Presbytère, which is a farmhouse complex, one of those Normandy farmhouses, because it's very top of Normandy. It has guys garrisoned in it. And there's a village to the south, the village of Bruneval, from where the raid gets its name. But what Mountbatten does is he submits the finalised raid proposal to the 3 chiefs of staff, Admiral Dudley Pound, Air Marshal Sir Charles Portal, and General Alan Brooke, on the 21st of January. And the chiefs say, go, do it. So they have to find out as much as they can around Bruneval. And SOE are put onto this. And this is an amazing story. Absolutely amazing story. So the intel for Operation Colossus is piss poor. But there's a crucial difference between fascist Italy and occupied France. France is full of people who want to help. So SOE are in on this Würzburg pinch. On the 24th of January, so 3 days after it's greenlit by the chiefs of staff, they order their agent, who's codenamed Remy, a man called Gilbert Reynaud. Remy, you are tasked with looking into enemy strength and dispositions around the Bruneval site. So he passes this on to Roger Dumont, who is codenamed Paul Roger, a sub-agent, Charlemagne, Charles Chavreau to assist. And Charlemagne owns a garage. So Charlemagne has a permit to drive around the Le Havre area. So he's just the chap you need. He drives Paul Roger with him to the Hotel Beaumont in Bruneval, where the proprietors are receptive to helping, and they know everything that's going on in the village.
And how far is Bruneval itself from the Würzburg?
About 1.5 miles. The proprietors at the Hotel Beaumont, they know all the comings and goings. They tell them all the German deployments. There's Luftwaffe troops operating guarding the villa, and they're based in this farmhouse complex, La Presbytère. In Bruneval, there's a platoon of lancers under a sergeant. There's a pair of bunkers overlooking the beach. And what's really amazing is these guys, Paul Roger and Charlemagne Chavreau, they go down to the beach. They persuade the sentry on the beach that Paul is a student from Paris who wants to see the sea one last time.
Really?
Yep, I love it. The sentry falls for this.
At a critical stage in the war, young man comes to the coast and claims he just wants to see the sea. I'd believe it.
Yeah.
Jeepers.
Near a secret site.
Oh, go on then.
And the way he moves around the beach then makes it quite clear that the Achtung Minen signs are just for show. They find out that the beach probably isn't mined. and they note the machine gun posts overlooking the beach.
So Paul is busy taking photographs, getting out his binoculars, tape measure. Just want to see the sea.
Okay, that is fine by me. Don't tell anyone.
Yeah, keep it to yourself, okay? Between friends.
Exactly. Soon this war will be over and you can come back and see the sea properly. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. And this goes straight back to SOE, straight onto Combined Operations Headquarters, and straight onto Airborne Division HQ. So we've done the intel, we've laid out what this operation has to be, and on the 14th of January, Combined Operations Headquarters instruct Browning, Major General Browning at 1st Airborne Division Headquarters, and Brigadier Gale to provide one company of paras and accompanying sappers, and this is basically a sappering task actually, for training for a possible raid. So, Windy Gale chooses C Company, also known as Jock Company, of 2 para.
How many German troops do they reckon are in the immediate area?
About 100.
As many as that.
So they are relying on surprise and confusion. They don't have the planes. You can't drop a battalion. There just aren't the planes.
But also, if too many is too obvious. This is a stealth strike and dash job, isn't it?
And also too many means more landing craft assault to get them off the beaches as well. And they're in short supply.
Go light and flexible.
So 2 para is under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Ted Flavel, who had fought alongside Gale in the First World War in the Machine Gun Corps, and in fact been Gale's commanding officer in the First World War.
He's not Flavel. I would have thought he'd be Flavel, wouldn't he?
If you're related to Ted Flavel or Flavel, write in and let us know. This company, C Company, are commanded by Major John Frost, later the Cameronians, son of a general, come back from Iraq. He'd been the adjutant of 2 para.
Right.
But Flavel, he gives him C Company. Frost has not yet qualified as a paratrooper because he's so busy as the adjutant. Because they're raising this formation, so he's doing all the admin. He's doing all the admin. You know, the battalion's only 6 weeks old when this job comes in, right? So he's been doing all the paperwork, all the admin as the adj. So he hasn't qualified as a paratrooper. And he's joined up looking for action and adventure. He doesn't like parachuting very much. And he hurts his knee earlier in training and ends up in hospital and ends up in hospital full of people who've broken their legs and necks and things.
What did you do? Jumped out of a plane, old boy?
Yeah, exactly. His memoir about his stint in hospital is exactly that. It's a risky business, isn't it, old chap? Then on the 20th of January, so basically a week later, Gale briefs Frost. He says, special training, but he doesn't tell Frost what's actually happening.
Why is Frost chosen if he hasn't already done his parachute jumps? Is it just because he stands out as the man with the most vim? And
Yeah. And Flavel hasn't qualified either. Nobody's had time. On the 20th of January, Gale briefs Frost. They've got some special training coming in, but he's not told what's going on. C Company are moved from North Yorkshire to Tillshead on Salisbury Plain, which is where the Glider Pilot Regiment have been stationed. And this move is delayed by weather, and they finally get there on the 24th of January, which is the same day Remy gets his instructions from SOE. So, but no airborne operation can happen without the cooperation of the Royal Air Force. In fact, you could argue it's not the cooperation, it's without the say-so of the Royal Air Force. They're the tail wagging the dog here. And the RAF have got 3 tasks. It's not just that they've got to land them. They've 3 tasks that come with this operation. They've got to drop the guys in the right place. They've got to run distraction operations to keep the Germans busy and off balance. And they've got fighter escort for the return journey in the morning, 11 group.
So this is a single night op, isn't it?
But the ships will be coming back in the morning, so they need fighter cover. And the last time we ran into 11 group, they were covering themselves in glory dealing with the Channel Dash. So let's hope they can get this one right.
And getting themselves shot down on pointless rhubarbs. Thanks, Lee Mallory.
Yeah. But interestingly, this is a moment of change. And we said about Combined Operations Headquarters, Louis Mountbatten's coming as a new broom and he's trying to get people to take the combined side of things more seriously. On the 15th of January, so just a week before this all gets going, 38 Group is formed. And 38 Group is the Army Cooperation Command in the Royal Air Force. Their job is to work together with the Army. Maybe to some it might seem that, why is it taking this long? But that's their role from now on. And 38 Group end up being, the people who take 6th Airborne to Normandy and 1st Airborne to Arnhem. This is 18 months since Churchill asked the War Office and the Air Ministry to get airborne forces going, but it's finally happened.
Right.
Chosen for the raid is 51 Squadron. This is like basically the Avengers. They're getting their best people together because this is a bomber command squadron, super experienced bomber crews led by Wing Commander Charles Pickard, DFC.
Yes, we all know him. He is the king of stoics, by the way.
Absolutely. He's a movie star. He's tall, he's inspiring.
He makes a straight pipe, yep.
Yeah, exactly. He gets cracking with training his troops for airborne operations, which is a completely different discipline to what they've been doing. The RAF grant Pickard 12 aircraft, Whitleys.
Which is very much an old school favourite.
Yeah, exactly.
Guaranteed to get you killed.
Yeah, well, pretty much. They're inventing the techniques. It's not been done before, you know, and so they're dropping dummies. They've got to do this at night. The weapons container drop needs perfecting. What we don't have yet is British Paras jumping with a kit bag so that they land with their weapons. There's a container that gets dropped and they have to find a container on the drop zone, which is they've copied from the Germans. And how it works is when the fifth man goes out of the aircraft, his static line sets off the release for the containers. So that the weapons in theory land in the middle of the sticker parachutists as it lands. And they're going to be dropping the guys from 100 meters, 300-ish feet. So you're out the plane, parachute on the ground. Bang, 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 in under 10 seconds. The planes are Whitleys. This is an aircraft that's about to go obsolete, which is why the RAF have given it to the airborne forces. There's some absolutely hair-raising footage of people jumping out of the Whitley because they put a hole in the floor. And the problem is, if you time it wrong, you'll bash your face on the hole as you go out.
No one thinks to put any padding around it.
Well, they wear this funny donut padded helmet for a bit for this reason. But you've got broken noses and smashed in teeth. It's called ringing the bell.
God, I mean, it's just horrendous, isn't it?
It's dog shit. Yeah, it's not good. And the paras all sit on the floor. There's no seats. And they're all crammed in the cockpit. And if you look at the picture of the men sat on the floor in the Whitley, that ain't no happy ride. And when you jump out, you lean your head right back. You put your head right back like this to avoid bashing your head on the way out, knocking yourself out or smashing all your teeth in. And where they sit on the floor has to be very carefully organised because they don't want to disrupt the aircraft's centre of gravity.
It's a Whitley. It's obsolescent. It was barely designed for bombing. I mean, it might have been designed for bombing. It's not very effective at it. I mean, it's certainly not designed for dropping paratroopers with big teeth.
No, exactly.
It's absolutely no wonder, is it, that they all sound like they haven't got any teeth on those oral histories you've been listening to.
I hadn't thought of that.
I went out of the plane. I went out of the bloody Whitley because I ain't got no teeth anymore.
I mean, what they tried before was jumping out the hole of the back where the turret was. That's what they've done before. It's really, really crap.
Until they all started hitting the tailplane, yeah.
But they're at the back of the queue. This is the point. Airborne forces at the back.
Early days.
And they are not going to be given anything that's up to date. So, but the Royal Naval component is under the command of Admiral Sir William Bubbles James.
Admiral James here, but you can call me Bubbles.
And he's Commander-in-Chief Portsmouth. Why is he called Bubbles, Jim?
Well, because he was the Pear soap model as a boy. And Sir Charles Millet is his grandfather, the legendary artist. And he's been a code breaker in Room 40 during the previous war. So he's a super high-powered, brainy, naval-type boffin with a penchant for soap. Yeah. So obviously he's called Bubbles. It's just... Only in Britain would this be the case. In Britain of a certain era.
I know, we've talked in the Visionary series about how, you know, when industry kicks in, there's tons of everything, but industry has not kicked in quite yet.
No.
Which is why you're jumping out of obsolete bombers and also why you're using a cross-channel ferry as an assault ship. So Commander F.N. Cook, Royal Australian Navy.
Yeah, it's another man who prefers acronyms rather than a Christian name.
And Commander Cook has a mixed force of motor gunboats, landing craft assaults, which are these new small landing craft, and they're using a Belgian cross-channel ferry called the Prince Albert, which the Royal Navy has co-opted in 1940 and repurposed as an assault ship. And that's going to deliver the LCAs across the channel. And the idea is the Royal Navy will arrive 2 hours after the drop to collect, and the Prince Albert will then bugger off, having dropped off the LCAs because it's too ripe a target. And then the motor gunboats will tow the LCAs back with a fighter escort from 8 o'clock that morning, from dawn.
God, shades of Operation Sea Lion there.
Yeah. And they're going to be doing 7 knots as they waddle and toddle their way back across the channel to Portsmouth.
So they need to do it under the cover of darkness, don't they? This is very much a winter operation.
Yeah. And then there's a bit more intel that comes in. The more recce flights go in, and they see further defences. There's lots of wire at Bruneval. They locate more weapons pits and all this sort of stuff. Frost becomes anxious that the recce flights are making it obvious what they're up to. You know, you're wrecking it too much. You're making it clear. But he maintains training intensity nonetheless. This is a smash and grab job. So we've looked a little at how it's going to be done. We pitched this, didn't we, Jim, as basically some good news from 1942, from February 1942. So I think it's worth possibly looking at why we might be clinging on to this crumb of comfort of the good news.
Well, yes, because actually I think there's quite a lot of cheer in 1941, all things considered. I mean, you know, America's in the war right at the end of 1941. Things haven't gone disastrously in the desert by any stretch of imagination. We've rounded up 2 Italian armies. We've won in Ethiopia. That's a massive tick. We've cleared things up in the Atlantic to a large extent, to the point where we're not going to lose that battle anymore. We still haven't won it, but we're not going to lose it. So that's all good.
Yeah.
Defense contracts are in with the Americans. Lend-Lease has been signed off, so few. You know, that's all right. And we've only got one front to deal with. All of which changes at the end of 1941 with the arrival of the Imperial Japanese on the scene. And this is where things start to go really, really badly wrong in a very, very big way. Hong Kong has been overrun. Malaya is in the process of being overrun. And by the middle of February, not only is Malaya being lost, so is Singapore in the middle of it. You know, it's just, with in terms of the numbers put into the bag, the worst single defeat ever in British history. It's not going terribly well, and it's not even going particularly brilliantly in the desert either, because Rommel has fought back after Operation Crusader and regained land, and it's resettled on the Gazala line. And the British in the Western Desert in North Africa are starting to sort of run out of ideas. And yes, American troops arriving in Britain in January 1942, but it feels like a long way to go. And they just haven't. And the Bomber Command isn't really working. They've got a new commander-in-chief, Air Marshal Salva Harris, who takes over in February 1942. But they're a long way off being a full, all-out strategic bombing campaign against Germany. It's all drips and drabs. It's all pretty loose stuff, and you know, they're not doing terribly well.
You say that we're doing well in the battle at the Atlantic, essentially, by this, or Britain's doing very well by the end of 1941. They've got it they're kind of taped down as a situation, haven't they? But that's not how it feels reading the newspapers, though, is it? Because every ship sunk feels like a disaster, right? The loss of Prince of Wales and Repulse at the end of 1941, the 10th of December 41. Loss of capital ships, because so much British prestige and imperial prestige is tied up with the Royal Navy. Loss of capital ships is a big blow. It's a big blow to Britain's public fortunes in the war. And of course, a big part of strategy is it's a slow burn. You've got to sweat your way through what appear to be the reverses now, and have a long-term aim, and politics often doesn't operate, and public opinion doesn't operate in the long term. It can very often operate in the very short term. And so the view from Britain, which has been, after all, been bombed until May, the Blitz has gone until May 1941, which again, yes, it ends, and yes, the Luftwaffe, actually, it's very costly for the Luftwaffe, but if you live in Plymouth, if you live in Liverpool or Glasgow or Hull or Bristol or Sheffield or any of those places that the Luftwaffe have given their full attention to, it does not feel like the war's going well. And I think early 1942, the public faced the war. You know, you've had the Channel Dash, which is regarded as an enormous scandal that ships can sail through the Straits of Dover unscathed, enemy ships. You know, it hasn't happened for hundreds of years. You know, it's this, that there is really very much, you know, and Churchill has a lot of work to do managing the Conservative Party. You know, there's a no confidence debate around this time where only one MP votes against the government, but everyone gets stuff off their chest, says how they feel about the conduct of the war. And Churchill's run out of Battle of Britain good vibes by this point. They're not really around anymore in terms of his political capital. And his great advantage is there isn't anyone else who's at all viable as a successor at this point. And that's one of the things that plays to his to his advantage at this point. And I think, and we'll see Churchill pops up in this story later, because there's some good news in early 1942 from this raid that is in short supply, and he's a politician like any other. He knows he needs to face the public and say something went well, because he's sick of facing the public and saying something's gone wrong. And he knows as well, with the loss of Singapore, that's going to change everything in terms of the British Empire's status, clout, ability to make promises to anybody.
Yeah, and just general global prestige. It takes a hammering from that.
Well, and what do you do about India now, from now on? What do you do about Australia? What do you say to those politicians? You know, where the British Empire's a going concern, it's an important thing. Well, no, it doesn't look like it now. It looks like it's failed. And you're hanging on by your fingernails. So a thing like this, and it's amazing to think of 120 paratroopers on a tiny raid like this, seizing a 3-meter wide radar bowl, can constitute good news. But that's how bad things have got.
And the Second World War is a war of supplies, but it's also a war of technology. So being able to get a technological edge over your enemy is really vital.
In the last episode, we laid out what's at stake here. There's a Würzburg A radio set discovered on the French coast near Le Havre, in a place called Bruneval, where there's a villa sat on a cliff top with a radar dish in open country and in plain sight, in broad daylight, sat there. And the boffins who go by their initials, he's not called Reg. R.V. Jones is absolutely determined to get his hands on this Würzburg A. Lord Louis Mountbatten has come into Combined Operations Headquarters in October of 1941. He's a new broom. He needs a success. British Airborne Forces needed success. They've been reorganised. It's the Parachute Regiment now. It's all under Boyd Browning. They need a success. And Churchill, Chiefs of Staff, need a success. So here is a smash and grab job to seize that radar.
Literally, the stakes couldn't be higher. As
an honorary colonel of 299...
Do you just want to translate that acronym for everyone?
Corps of Royal Engineers. Hurrah for the CRE. It's sapper time, everybody. And the thing to remember, let's just get this out of the way here. The thing to remember about the Corps of Engineers, it is the most important foundational corps in the British Army. Every specialist part of the army that has come into existence over the centuries has come out of the Royal Engineers. The Royal Air Force, which is founded on the RFC. The RFC was created by the Corps of Engineers. Signallers are engineers. The Tank Corps is engineers. Percy Hobart was a sapper. It's sapper time, boys and girls.
And probably the Navy was too, if you look hard enough.
I'm sure if you look hard enough, it's right there. The Rock of Gibraltar, the absolute foundational parts of the British Empire, of British power, are laid down by the Corps of Engineers. Get yourself down to Gillingham, go to the museum and see the truth stare you in the face that the Royal Engineers are the most important corps in the British Army.
And indeed, British history.
In British history. The thing is what's interesting, though, is Browning, Major General Boy Browning, Frederick Browning, Mr. Du Maurier, his vision for an airborne division is all arms. Although this is a raid, he wants to go bigger than raids. He wants to put in an all-arms division of airborne soldiers, that it's a full, all-round formation. The only difference is it's delivered by air. Now, whether he's right in that ambition or not is something one can argue, because by the time you get to the Battle of Arnhem, kind of half the men delivered by glider on D-Day of Arnhem are like mechanics and supply people rather than bayonets. And so there's an argument that the cart's being put before the horse, right? It could be said. But basically, sappers are essential to all this. The Trojano Aqueduct, that's a sapper operation. Operation Freshman that's to come, the attempt to destroy the heavy water plant in Vemork in Norway, is a sapper. They're all sappers, those guys. And demolition and sabotage are part of the butcher and bolt commander ethos. So sappers are central to this. And obviously, if you're going to steal a radar, what you need is Royal Engineers. The sapper team with 1st Airborne Division that's put on this job is under Lieutenant Charles Dennis Vernon. And he's given the task of training his men to get ready to dismantle the Würzburg. So they need the tools, and they need the means to get the tools to the site. So it's screwdrivers, jemmies, spanners.
Because the whole point is they've got to take it home, right?
They're taking it out, and the idea is to take as much of the radar equipment and its control equipment as they possibly can to dismantle the Würzburg A.
So you need big spanners, big wrenches.
And crowbars, jemmies. And the idea is their containers will have lights on them, because it's got to be a night drop, because you can't do this in daytime. The containers will have with lights on them, purple coloured lights that are their containers, and they'll go to those containers, and the kit with these trolleys, these trolleys that they're going to assemble and then drag the kit over to drag the stuff, the tools, and demolitions, and mine detectors, and white tape for the evacuation, and all this stuff, right? Because they're not just doing the Würzburg, they're demining to do. They've got demolition, because the idea is they're going to blow the thing up once they've left. Blow what they can't take. They're going to blow that up as well, and they've got to cover the exit down to the beach with if they need to do that, they're going to do that as well. Combined Operations Headquarters decide that they want a radar expert there on the ground with them, and the Royal Engineers don't have anyone who fits that bill. So enter Charles Cox, and he was a cinema projectionist before the war. So he's a machines guy. Of course he was. He's regarded as one of the best RDF techs on chain home at Hartland Point. And on the 1st of February, he's called into the Air Ministry. He's marched into Air Commodore Victor Tate's office alongside a Corporal Smith, who's come from Ventnor, who's a similar, gleaming RDF operator on the Isle of Wight. And they are interviewed as follows. And Jim, would you like to be the Air Commodore?
Yes, I'll be Victor Tate.
Okay, you be Victor Tate, and I'll fill in for Cox and Smith. So, go on then.
You are Cox, radar mechanic.
Yes, sir.
And you are Corporal Smith, radar mechanic.
Yes, sir.
You two NCOs volunteered for a dangerous job.
No, sir, says Cox. Yes, sir, says Smith.
You have not volunteered.
No, sir, says Cox.
Well, there must be some mistake. I particularly asked for volunteers. But now that you are here, will you volunteer?
Well, sir, what is the job?
Well, that I cannot tell you. There's a war on and people get hurt in wars, but I promise you that you will have a pretty good chance of surviving.
Very well, sir. I volunteer. What do you people want? Hey?
Yes, it's just how good is that? Those were the days, weren't they?
It's fantastic.
You've got a pretty good chance, at
Very...
least 20% chance of surviving.
But also, people get hurt in wars. Oh, well, okay. I've changed my mind. It's extraordinary. And so both men are promoted on the spot, and they're sent up to Ringway to learn how to parachute. And during the training, Smith hurts himself, so he's ruled out. He isn't going to go. Yeah. So Cox, once he's qualified for his wings, doing the balloon and everything and doing a night drop, is sent to Tatton Park, where airborne forces are getting their men up to scratch. And he has a week of being made familiar with the small arms and close combat. And then he's sent to Tillshead to work with Vernon and the sappers and take them through, get their heads around what they've got to do.
And presumably he's given battle dress to replace his blue suit.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, he is. Yeah. But not a maroon beret. Although actually in the training photos, you see most of the lads from C Company wearing bonnets and stuff, and they're still in their regimental bonnets and things, which is quite interesting, because this is before the mythology of the maroon beret. C Company. At this stage, they're still preparing for what they've been told is a demonstration exercise that they're going to be doing for the Chiefs of Staff or the King or something. No one's quite sure. And Frost doesn't like the plan that Division have foisted on him. And the idea is that C Company is going to be split up into small groups and not operate with a company headquarters structure. Nor in platoons, as he's been hoping to train his men. So, and this is partly to do with the fact that a Whitley can only drop 10 guys. So the idea is 10 guys land together, they work together, rather than everyone lands in one place, and then you go into your sections and your platoons and you go about. But the thing is two para is only weeks old. The parachute brigade itself is brand new. It's not such an overlay, but Frost isn't happy with the fact that he's got to do part of the raid himself rather than command the company. He thinks he should have a company headquarters and say, have you done your bit, and react to what's going on. And he's actually been tasked, with kicking the door open at the villa and starting the raid himself with a blow of the whistle. Lieutenant Colonel Flavel chooses C Company because he wants to make sure that 2 para are up to a readiness, because so far 1 para have had all the attention and all the action. But Frost feels that he's being undermined. He feels he's being undermined by this set of orders, that it's undermining his command. And it's his first proper command as company commander.
Okay.
Landing, kicking doors in is one thing. It's what you do next. It's the sort of the challenge, right? But this is a hallmark of British airborne operations. They have a tendency to overcomplicate things, to divide resources and leave lots to timing and lots to drops going right. And this may be because actually, because they're inventing airborne operations. Saying, no, it's not been done. No one knows what they're doing. They're making up.
So what do you say? Saying that they should be more tactically flexible.
Well, that's what he wants. He wants to run a company like a company, rather than 12 sticks of 10 men in different groups. And we'll see, actually, because he said in the introduction we were divided up into groups named after naval heroes. We'll see how that works out for him. But the thing is the airborne plans for Sicily are overcomplicated and ridiculous. Operation Fustian is an extremely complicated thing with all these different tasks, 3 bits of high ground that need to be taken instead of the bridge and the bridge. And there is a hallmark of British airborne operations that they get themselves in a tangle sometimes. So Frost complains, right? And people say of John Frost that he would tug at his moustache when he had a problem to solve. And then he would look at you and you'd think, oh God, here it comes. And he complains to the staff officer sent down from airborne headquarters. And he's known to be a tough and determined leader and regarded as having sound judgment. And he complains about the operation. He doesn't like the plan because he thinks it's an exercise. So why are they doing this for an exercise? And the following day, the staff officer comes back and says, okay, all right, here's the thing. Actually, this is for real. And you know what? If you don't like, and we're going to snatch this radio location gear, as they call it. And if you don't like the plan, we'll find someone who will. So Frost says, I like the plan. And they're going to be divided into different groups with different tasks, which we'll come to when the raid gets underway. But they're named after Royal Navy legends. Rodney, Nelson, Drake, Jellicoe and Hardy are the name of the groups they're going to be
perfect
split into.
Okay, well, I approve of that, don't you?
Yeah, of course. Well, yeah, but we'll see. There's an issue with Nelson. Jellicoe has the old problems.
There's no issue with Nelson.
Well, we'll find out. They have a very tough time with the training. Frost describes everything as a shambles. All of the training exercises are like full of snags. But they do, for instance, they do a thing like a simulated drop where the men are dropped off from lorries as if they're landing in their individual sticks. But the planes delivering the containers go to the wrong place, right? And so, which can't happen if they're dropped. So they just can't make it glue. They go for a week to Loch Fyne in Scotland to practice the exfil on landing craft assaults. And Frost finds that very difficult, but actually it turns out it's invaluable. He finds that's a tricky business. And during this, Mountbatten shows up to check on the training and he spills the beans.
Because don't you remember in the following year, he spills the beans about Sicily, about Husky.
Yeah. He just can't keep it to himself. They've got a super detailed model of the villa, which you can see at the Air Assault Museum. And when you look at it, it really is exactly the same as the photo of the villa and the Würzburg. The model is amazing, and you can go and see it at Duxford. And I would recommend people go to the Air Assault Museum and look at that. But Frost he's dismayed with his men's chances. He's not been in battle himself. He may be this inspiring leader. He's never been in battle before. And in his memoir, he goes on about his concerns about fear. He talks about it a lot. And in fact, I think one of the interesting things about John Frost is in his memoir, he talks an awful lot about fear and its effects. And this man's a renowned warrior, yet that's one of the things he keeps coming back to in his memoir. And Browning, in the meantime, Major General Browning comes in to check up on Frost's progress. And Frost is very worried about how scruffy the lads in C Company are because he knows Browning's thing is spick and span soldiers. And Frost regards himself as a fighting soldier and thinks that bullshit isn't so important. But basically, Browning is delighted with the state of preparation. He calls C Company some of the dirtiest soldiers he's ever seen. While this is going on, at the glider pilot base at Tilshead, this is where they are, the glider pilot regiment base. The glider pilots have no idea what's going on. They're completely oblivious to what C Company are up to. And as Frost said, the bewilderment is how much food they're getting through. At this stage of the war, British airborne forces they're not jumping with the kit bag. But by later in the war, they're jumping with every man jumps with a kit bag himself that he holds and lets go on a piece of rope and lowers down. So they're using weapon containers like the Fallschirmjäger. So you're landing with a pistol. There will be no mortars. There will be no Vickers guns. So it's going to be rifles, and they've been given the brand new Sten gun with all that entails. A high rate of fire, less stopping power, and a lot of them complain about them jamming or not firing. They'll fire it and the pin doesn't, because it has a nipple rather than a pin, doesn't it? It doesn't have a firing pin, it has a nipple on the bolt. Anyway, but and it's no range for denying the enemy movement. Which with a Vickers gun you can basically plaster an area that the enemy can never come through. They're going to have to be quick, and they're going to have to make sure they're shooting to kill. Flight Sergeant Cox, as well as Flight Sergeant Cox, is a German Jew by the name of Private Peter Newman. His real name is Nagel. He's attached to C Company. Frost isn't happy about this. It's yet another imposition. It's yet another stranger. And he's worried he won't be up to scratch, but they absolutely insist at Combined Operations Headquarters. Also on board one of the motor gunboats that's coming to the rescue them is an officer from the Technical Research Establishment at Swanage, which is where radar is being, the radar development work is being done.
Yes, it's just around the corner at Worth-Matravers.
Yeah, exactly. And the idea is, if C Company have made the lodgement safe, he will come ashore to have a look at the radar, but only if it's the ideal circumstances, right? Because he's too important to risk. Cox also comes with a fail-safe. He is given a bodyguard. And while he might be under the impression it's the job of that sapper to keep him safe, his role actually is to kill Cox if it seems that he might be captured, because he knows all about British RDF.
And who says the British aren't ruthless?
Well, and that's an element with the story that some say is myth, and other sources say no, that's absolutely the case. And it's quite one of those interesting things where the dit swirls around the truth we don't know. So the best date, moon and tide, because they need the right moon, they need the tide for the land, and these are the conditions that will dictate combined operations. And C Company are ready. Their mission to seize the Würzburg relies on surprise. Well, they're going to deliver that. A clean drop, radios, which are the new 18 and 38 sets, timing, the Navy arriving to exfil, Vernon and Cox's party being able to dismantle the Würzburg quickly enough. It's a 2-hour window. And as ever, though, with airborne operations, the weather gets a vote. C Company of 2 Para, who are now known as Bruneval Company, by the way, that's their name, and it's the first battle honour of the Parachute Regiment, the Bruneval Raid. They're stood up. They do their weapons checks. They do their kit. They move to RAF Thruxton, ready to go, and then they're stood down. Weather's terrible on both sides of the channel. It can't happen. The same happens on the 25th.
No, and just think of all those guys. They're all revved up. I mean, they're revved up, aren't they? Their tensions are tight, adrenaline's pumping, and you got to come.
On the 25th, to make use of the time, they practice the naval exfil again, and it's a complete balls up. Everything goes wrong. It all goes wrong. So the last bit of practice they've had has been a disaster, right? The 26th, they're stood down again. And each time, as I say, they're driven to RAF Thruxton, having checked their kit, checked their weapons, got ready to go. Each time they go to RAF Thruxton, they're ready to emplane. Each time they're driven back to Tilshead. So everyone is losing heart, apart from the company sergeant major, Jerry Strachan. I strink the Strachan, but maybe Strawn. A couple of weeks ago, I asked on social media how to pronounce this, and that resulted in a mixed response. But he's from the Black Watch, and on the 27th, he's going, "Oh no, today's the day. Don't you worry, pal." And he's absolutely convinced that it's going to happen. And he's right. 27th dawns. The weather's good. It's a fine day. The sea's as flat as a pancake. It's clear, both sides of the channel. So the order comes from Combined Operations Headquarters to Airborne Division, carry out Operation Biting tonight.
Tonight is the night.
Yeah, and Browning rushes over to tell Frost it's on. So the planets have aligned. Combined Operations Headquarters, they need a result. Louis Mountbatten needs a result. The Air Ministry, Bomber Command, British War Strategy needs this Würzburg to have a proper look at it. The enemy have been decent enough to offer up a Würzburg set on the French coast near Le Havre. It's too tempting. And they're ready to go. And with them is Flight Sergeant Charles Cox, projectionist in civilian life, ready to steal the radar. Frost finishes his dinner with the glider pilots, at which he's desperate to tell them what's happening and doesn't. He's driven to Thruxton.
Is it time for pudding?
History does not record whether he stops for pudding. No one knows.
There's always time for pudding.
But he's doing the rounds. Morale is high. They're going. You know, this is what they're trained for. They're drawing the chutes. Piper Ewan does the rounds at each plane, playing the pipe stirringly. The men are told to pee before they get on board because they've had a lot of tea as they've been doing the hurry up and wait routine. Wing Commander Charles Pickard, target for tonight movie star, who's in charge of 51 Squadron, checks in with Frost and his Frostbatman. He wishes him and his men luck, but he says that he feels like a bloody murderer because he thinks the whole thing's ridiculously dangerous.
That's as much emotion as you're going to get.
Exactly. Frost, as he's waiting, is keen to go, but also half wishing that something will come up and cause a cancellation. I admire him for admitting that.
It probably feels a bit like going out to bat, doesn't it? For first up, you know, when you're kind of waiting to bat and...
I'm sure it's a lot like that, Jim.
Yeah, nerves playing a little bit.
And Frost is in the 6th aircraft. He's in Whitley number 6. So it's sort of the idea is sort of been in the middle. He's jumping number 3. In the plane with him is Flight Sergeant Cox from the Royal Air Force. And Frost passes round rum that is laced with tea. I think this is the right way of putting it. And because Frost knows he needs to steady his nerves. And the naval component under Commander Cook, Royal Australian Navy, the motor gun boats, the assault ship, the Prince Albert, they left that afternoon because that's the other thing. They need to have set off to be able to get there in time to pick up C Company.
They're not in Whitleys, are they?
No, they're not in Whitleys. No. But there's a snag, right? It snowed at Bruneval.
What?
They've not got their snow smocks. And this means they're going to be visible on the terrain, right? In their sort of khaki, dirty, brown, yellow, the new denizens. And Frost, as he turns this over in his mind, thinks, actually, maybe it'll be easier to keep track of the chaps because I'll be able to see them against the snowfall.
Fair point.
Right? Because he's always trying to find the solution. And it's really, really, really cold in the Whitleys. They're sat on the floor. They've brought sleeping bags and blankets with them.
Just get me out of here.
Yeah. One of the officers has even bought a cricket jumper, which will come into play later.
I said it was like going out to bat.
It's exactly like going out to bat. And they're sat on the aluminium floor of the Whitley.
I can almost feel the cold going up through my bum just thinking about it.
It's winter. I think quite seriously, this is a problem. And obviously the planes have to form up before they set off. So there's a lot of sort of bimbling about. They're waiting in the aircraft and it's cold. It's cold. And of course, there is this, they're in these obsolete planes. There's the strong irony that the Air Ministry and by association Bomber Command, who've poo-pooed, delayed, and actually, if we're honest, tried hard to wreck the airborne effort up to this point, and now relying on it to deliver a critical result and have given it a mere dozen of its actual very shittest aircraft to do the job. So from an army perspective, fuck Lord Portal. Peter Portal, as they speed across the channel at 600 feet, the men are playing rummy, they're singing a bit, some of them try to sleep. And it's very cold and very tense in the aircraft. No two ways about it. As they approach Le Havre, there is flak. And the first 2 aircraft carrying half of the Nelson component, so 2 sticks of the Nelson, so 20 men from the Nelson component, which is 40 strong, whose job it is to seize the beach and secure the exit, are knocked off course. And ironically, it's Wing Commander Pickard, oh dear, of course, leading the bomber stream, and the number 2 aircraft. Their navigators are knocked off course. And unknown to Frost, 20 men in Nelson, half of the exfil party, right? And when you've got 120 guys, 20 is a sizable chunk, right? Are dropped away from the intended drop zone. And we'll see what that leads to later. So immediately, the horrible and real vulnerability of airborne operations are on show. Time is short. Coherence as a force is fragile. How your officers and NCOs and then the men react is immediately important. And enemy reaction is everything. You haven't got heavy weapons. There's Bren guns are as far as it goes. No mortars, rifles and Brens, mine detectors in the containers at best. They're super vulnerable to enemy artillery and mortars to which they have no response. There isn't time to dig in properly.
And they're completely dependent on the Navy turning up when they say they're going to.
Exactly. And perish the thought that what happens if armour turns up, right? Because this is boys anti-tank gun time, right? Even the sound of vehicles is enough to make the sternest paratroopers' bowels turn to liquid. Let's be honest now. And will the Navy be on time? So they're in the plane. Frost hears the call, action stations, from Company Sergeant Major Strawn, Strachan, we don't know. The men discard their blankets and sleeping bags. The leading man dangles his legs in the hole as the rest prepare for the green light. And it is go. So the Bruneval Raid, let's just refresh. Basically, this raid is on the 27th, 28th of February, 1942. And let's be honest, Britain...
It's good news.
It's good news, because Britain's war has got the blues. Let's make no mistake here.
Oh, no. Yeah. It's all going wrong.
And things have been going wrong. We've had...
I know, I'm laughing about it. It really upsets me just thinking about it.
I know.
So thank you for bringing some levity into it.
Well, particularly in the Far East, things are really like... Because let's be honest...
It's not going great in North Africa.
It's not going great in North Africa.
It's not going great in the air on Bomber Command.
It's not going great in the air for Bomber Command. And the Royal Navy is... just let the German surface fleet through the Straits of Dover in the Channel Dash. Anyway.
All three services struggling.
Everyone's got the blues, right?
Everyone's got the blues. What they need,
and they need
is a cheer-up story.
They need a cheer-up story. And the bomber offensive, let's be honest now, in the Northwest Europe theatre, the only offensive on offer is the bomber offensive.
Yeah, right now.
But the problem is getting across the French coast lights up the German radio location system, as they call it. The Freya and the Würzburg, which is this twin system for long range and a short range radar detection system. And R.V. Jones, top boffin.
And his best mate, FC.
Yeah, Reginald.
Reginald Jones.
Reginald Jones. He wants a Würzburg A. They've spotted one on the French coast.
He wants one so bad.
He wants it so bad. He wants that radar dish right now. He can taste it.
It's just there, dangling in front of him, just on the other side of the English Channel.
Yeah, right there for the plucking.
All he needs is some special forces to go and whip it up.
Well, unfortunately,
from the Germans.
Fortunately, Combined Operations Headquarters, under its new boss, Lord Mountbatten, they need a result. They want a result. Airborne forces want a result. Boyd Browning needs a result. Because he's been lobbying hard for 18 months and he's kind of not really got anywhere with airborne forces. They've just been reorganised. Yeah. They've just become the Parachute Regiment. They've just become 1st Parachute Brigade. Intelligence, SOE are in on this.
Yes.
I think what's so interesting about the Bruneval Raid is these elements are this is the Overlord package that you need. Right?
Intelligence.
You need intelligence. You need air cover. You need the strategic bomb offensive to have panned out. You need the Navy and the Army and the Air Force to cooperate.
And you need assault craft.
Exactly. So it's the most miniature.
It's mini-me DD.
Exactly. It's the tiny acorn from which
I've never thought of it like that.
Overlord has grown.
Honestly, in the last 24 hours, I've had a couple of really big, never thought of that moments about the Second World War.
So intel has been gathered by the agents Charlemagne, Paul Roger, and Remy.
Paul Roger's real name is Roger.
Yes, his actual name's Roger. Yeah, so it's called Paul Roger.
What code name would you like? Well, I've been thinking about that. I think I'm going to go up for. I'm always partial to a drop, and I think I'd like to be called Paul Roger.
Anyway, the point is that this operation is now in full flow. C Company of 2 para, Jock Company, made up of men from the Black Watch, the Seaforth Highlanders, who are
Cameroonians,
still wearing their bonnets. They're not wearing the maroon berets yet. And one of the really interesting things about airborne forces is some
They
of
got
these,
airborne helmets though. This point,
yeah,
haven't
they have. They're not wearing this foam donut anymore that they look rather daft in. They are now wearing it.
and I think everyone's happy about that.
Yeah, everyone's happy about that. But what's interesting is even by the time Arnhem, people are still referring to themselves as guardsmen and the regiments they're from. You know, Jack Graben, who's the Victoria Cross at Arnhem Bridge, he's Ox and Bucks, and that's how he sees himself. And when you go to Arnhem, lots of the graves are someone on secondment to the Parachute Regiment from the Lancs or whatever. So
Somerset Light
there's sort of no such thing as the Parachute Regiment in the way we think of it now. Back then,
It's so new.
because it's a blank sheet of paper. So, and then with them they've got Flight Sergeant Charles Cox,
General Hero,
who's a projectionist.
Because the other one, what happened to the other one? I can't remember.
He twisted his ankle or something at Ringways. Yeah, Smith, so he can't come.
Got game leg.
So it's a smash and grab caper. Can the caper come off? Moon and tide are right on the 24th of February, but the weather goes wrong. Everyone thinks it's off, except for Company Sergeant Major Jerry Strawn, who on the 27th, the morning of the 27th, gets up and goes, "Okay, chaps, I reckon it's today." Right? I'd like to extend an apology to our Scottish listeners and hope that hasn't shattered the Union forever. Anyway,
I'm sure that's how he sounded.
Exactly how it sounded, sure. I mean, I'm probably underdoing it. And the weather is perfect, though it has snowed over at Bruneval, on the other side of the channel. Finally, they are go. And we left the last episode with the men literally poised at the hole of the floor of the Whitley, obsolete Whitley, the 12 Whitleys that the RAF have deigned to hand over, the Air Ministry. Major John Frost has been passing around the tea-laced rum in his Whitley. The green light says go. But before John Frost exits the Whitley...
Yeah. Come on, let's build the suspense a bit longer.
Let's look at the plan, because we haven't actually discussed what the plan is.
No, we haven't.
Right?
And I want to hear it.
So the plan is to land inland of the villa and to split into 5 parties named after naval legends. Right? So, I mean... You know,
of course.
If you've been listening to our Navy series lately, here we go. It's like the perfect planetary alignment. Nelson is the largest party.
He's Yoda.
No,
engage the enemy more closely.
Nelson is the largest party of 40 men, so 4 sticks from 4 aircraft, because they're jumping in sticks of 10.
I'm glad that the largest party is named after Nelson.
Well,
biggest
good.
ledge.
Good. Excellent. And part of this is commanded, and we'll come to him in a minute, a 20-year-old Second Lieutenant Ewan Charteris.
Heard of him before.
He's known as Junior because he's the youngest officer in C Company, because they're not very good at nicknames in 1942. And he's supposed to drop in first at midnight at 0:15 hours and secure the beach where the landing craft
That's
is.
Zulu.
Yeah, this is all Zulu. And in that party is John Frost's 2IC, which is Captain John Ross.
Yes.
And he's got to hold the road to the beach, and then Charteris is to take the beach. Once they've done that, they contact the Navy, who've already set off. He set off in the afternoon with it. HMS Prince Albert, the cross-channel ferry, retooled as an assault ship. The rest will drop 5 minutes later at 00:20. And this is Hardy, a party of 20 men, who are going to capture the villa itself, as well as any radar operators in the party. And this includes John Frost, Charles Cox, and the Royal Engineers under Charles Dennis Vernon. Jellicoe is 1 stick of 10 men under Lieutenant Peter Young, who will capture the Henry, as they call it, which is the Würzburg. They've nicknamed the Würzburg Henry.
I mean, these are all names that you've kind of, come up again, aren't they?
It's great. It's great. Yes.
Ewan Charteris, Peter Young.
These people resurface. Drake is another 10 men under Lieutenant Peter Naumoff.
No, I haven't heard of him.
Who are to contain the enemy at La Presbytere, which is the farmhouse complex to the north of the radar site.
In the woods, isn't it?
Yeah. Then the last group is Rodney, and they are meant to land at 25 past midnight, and they're the reserve. The idea is that they're the reserve.
Okay.
There is force protection in case the Germans moved in from Bruneval village to the site. And then the evacuation will be in the order of Hardy, Jellicoe, Drake, because Hardy's got the radar, is the theory, so you need to get them off first. Hardy, Jellicoe, Drake, then Rodney, then Nelson.
Yeah, you'd expect Nelson to be last.
Nelson's last, because Nelson's holding the exfil as well.
Yeah, and he's got the biggest.
And he's got the biggest party. On board the Seaborne Element, so in the Seaborne Element is 181 Airborne Field Ambulance with 20 medical orderlies split up across the Prince Albert, the motor gunboats, and the landing craft assaults. And there's 2 medical orderlies jumping with Frost's men.
Okay, well, that sounds like they've covered it.
Yeah, but that also shows, and this is what comes in on with Overlord, is there's a seaborne tail and an airborne component. There always is. There's the stuff you can't parachute in you bring by sea once you've established your beachhead. So,
And you also make sure you've got decent medics.
Browning models the medical thing on cavalry medicine because cavalry medicine is portable, has to turn up wherever the cavalry get to.
Love
so
it.
he draws on cavalry for how you run the air ambulance, the airborne field ambulance. So that's the plan. But of course, no plan survives contact with the enemy, blah, blah, blah.
Don't know
So
that.
as they approach Le Havre, there's flak. Of course there is. And the first two planes, carrying half of the Nelson component, whose job it is to secure the exit, seize the beach to secure the exit, are knocked off course.
What?
And ironically, it's Wing Commander Percy Pickard, whose straight pipe is knocked off course, and he's
Literally out of his mouth.
literally out of his mouth. And him and his navigators, the navigator in plane 1 and plane 2, aircraft 1 and plane, they lose their way. And so, unknown to Frost, 20 men in Nelson, the first guys to land, half the exfil party land in the wrong place.
Where do they land?
Well, we'll come to that.
Okay.
Because let's not, come on,
we'll come back.
we're in the suspense business here. Yeah. So, on board Frost's Whitley, Company Sergeant Major calls, "Action stations!"
That's
Like that.
CSM Strawn.
Yeah, that wasn't bad, was it?
No, it's excellent
Everyone's up. They ditch their blankets because they brought blankets with them.
because it's so cold.
Yeah. Number 1 dangles his legs through the hole, which is Strawn. Head back like that.
Yeah. Don't want to smash your
You
teeth.
don't want to ring the bell on the
Yeah.
way through. We've got a photo of that. We'll put it up to accompany this. They all look really frightened. The blokes in that. I know they're big, hairy ass paratroopers, but the blokes in that picture,
Haven't done it before.
in anticipation of going in that hole, are not happy. I think it's fair to say.
I don't think I would be.
No, absolutely.
You'd be
not.
tense, wouldn't you?
You'd be tense. Anyway, go! Frost descends. Right, they're jumping at about 300 feet, possibly.
Not very much.
I mean, you're in the air for 10 seconds at most.
Yeah.
Right? Shoot deploys, you're down. Right? But there it all is, laid out.
Exactly as they imagine.
Exactly. And if you go to the Air Assault Museum at Duxford, and I recommend you go to the Air Assault Museum at Duxford, there is the Bruneval model from
The original.
The original model from the planning in 1942.
Amazing.
And he says it's exactly as I saw it. Every fold of the land as expected. Frost recalls, "I landed very softly in the snow. There was no wind and all was silent apart from the noise of our aircraft stealing away into the night. My first action was a natural one. It was not good drill, for now is the time when a stick of parachutists are most vulnerable and one's first concern should be to make for the weapons containers. However, it had become essential, and it was also a gesture of defiance. We collected at the
So he had a
rendezvous."
slash?
He's gone for a slash, yeah. He's gone for a slash.
Slash.
Because when they leave Thruxton, RAF Thruxton, the men are told to have a pee before they leave because they've been sat around drinking tea all day. Frost has been on the rum and laced tea in the plane and is absolutely busting.
Busting for a wazzer.
And what's interesting about this is this is a recurring paratrooper thing. Alistair Pearson, when he briefs his men before D-Day, so there's a three-prong briefing. If you're in eight para, there's the three-prong briefing. Windy Gale comes down and he says, "The enemy is like a June bride. She knows she's going to get it, but she doesn't know how big it is." Right? And then he says, "Only a fool would go. That's why I'm going." Right? And you're like, Windy Gale, you're the greatest.
You're the ledge.
You're the absolute goat.
You're even
right?
better than Reginald.
And then exactly, and then James Hill, Brigadier James Hill goes, "Chaos will reign, it can be assured."
Yes, don't worry about it.
And then Alistair Pearson says, "You're all going to need to go for a piss."
I'm going to go and bake some bread.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So you've got this. It's an airborne thing. They all know it. Anyone who's experienced knows that actually you need a pee, and it's because you're hanging around, you're drinking a cup of tea, whatever, and also. He's been drinking rum, Frost. He's been drinking a diuretic,
it's gone
so
straight through him.
he needs to go.
Yeah,
But
fair enough.
Anyway, we collected at the rendezvous in about 10 minutes. We were ready to move off. So Frost assembles his men from Hardy,
Yes.
his party, and then he waits on Captain Vernon and Flight Sergeant Cox.
Yeah, where's Coxey?
Well, they've landed in that same Cox is in the same stick as Frost, but they've gone to find their containers that are marked with purple lights with the sappering tools in.
Yeah.
And that's the trolleys that they're going to assemble.
Yep.
For taking the radar away.
The really big wrenches and spanners.
Wrenches, spanners, screwdrivers.
Yep.
Demolitions, because they're going to blow it up as they leave to blow it up. Because interestingly, when they get back, it's in the papers, the Bruneval Raid. But it's that they've been and destroyed a radar site. That's the story that the papers have, because they need the good news, right? That we've gone and done this incredible daring thing, but they say...
Also, they don't want the Jerrys to know that they've got it.
Well, the Germans know they've got it the following morning, and there's a plane goes over the following morning. There's all these Germans stood around where the Würzburg was, going scratching their heads like Stone Laurel, like nein, scheiße. Perhaps we should have disguised it better. But anyway, but what's interesting is that they've got all this stuff to get together. So there's a delay. There's a delay, and everything takes slightly longer. Collecting the weapons takes slightly longer, and then Jellicoe, under Lieutenant Ewan Young, they go ahead to secure the radio location site, to secure the dish, right? The electric bowl, as it's been described. And the assault waits on Frost. Everyone's creeping stealthily through the night, and they wait on Frost blowing his whistle, right? 3 blasts on the whistle, and then 3 blasts on the whistle. And then Frost will kick the door open of the villa. Now, what's interesting about this is Frost would rather be running a headquarters.
I think you should blow it.
I'm going to, but we haven't got
original ARP Warden's whistle.
We haven't got to the door yet.
Yeah. I just need to rein in my excitement.
But Frost is annoyed about this. He would rather that he has a headquarters and he's coordinating things.
Yes, I remember this.
And that he thinks, as the commanding officer, he shouldn't be doing this.
No,
this is wrong. But anyway. As we heard in an earlier episode, there's that moment where he says to the staff officer, I think your plan's crap. And the staff officer says, well, we'll find someone who likes the plan then. He goes, I like the plan. The plan's great.
Yes, I remember
anyway,
that, yeah.
Frost gets to the front door of the villa. It's open. And in his excitement, he almost forgets to blow the whistle.
What?
Yep. Because the expectation is it's full of the Hun. Right? Anyway, he blows his whistle.
Yep.
And off it kicks, right? They burst into the house. They're yelling handy hock with their Sten guns. They've got these brand new Sten guns.
Yep.
There's a couple of jams on the night, but let's not...
Nothing to get worried about.
Nothing to get worried about. They're lobbing grenades about. And there's one man in the villa.
Yeah.
Who, with a machine gun, who company sergeant major Strawn kills when he doesn't surrender. So much for the villa. But at the same time, all the other assaults are starting.
Great.
On the blast of Frostwoods, because it's this small an area.
Yeah.
Right?
And also, those whistles are pretty loud.
They're pretty loud. And there's nothing else going on.
No.
Right?
And it's a still winter night.
Still winter night. The throb of the aircraft has long since receded. And after the battle, in the German battle report on Bruneval, they remark on how good the Paris fire discipline is. They say, until we heard the whistle, we didn't know a thing was going down. That there's no stray shots, there's no negligent discharges, there's none of that. That they just they're going. So Jellicoe under Lieutenant Ewan Young, they storm the radar position with great ferocity.
And the Germans have got pajamas on.
Yeah,
they're caught napping.
Yeah,
I mean it's just another night, isn't it? In February,
it's just another night. They've got their overcoats on, and they stand and watch as the Jellicoe party approach with their hands in their pockets. They're just watching it because they think it's an exercise or something, right? And also,
and they look a bit like Fallschirmjäger.
The helmets look like Fallschirmjäger because the paratroopers' uniforms, British paratrooper uniforms,
are pretty much the same as the German ones.
Homage. Let's call it homage.
Okay, yeah. Inspired by.
Reimagining. Young, however, he says, in a few minutes we'd captured the set and the defenders were dead.
Okay.
And he's actually killed 5 of them in cold blood. They just kill them. And they kill all but 2. And his Sergeant McGregor, rebukes him, says, "You're a cruel bastard," because he thinks he's gone too far. And also, they are really meant to bring some blokes home who know how to work the Würzburg.
Right. Do you think his blood's up a little bit?
I think they've been sat at Thruxton with their parachutes on for 3 days.
Yes.
Revving to go. They also know they all know that airborne forces need a win.
Yeah.
They all know they need to demonstrate that they're like the absolute bee's knees.
Yeah. But it needs further on the night, the adrenaline's pumping.
Of course it is. But more prisoners who understood the apparatus would have been useful. But there we are, right?
I know.
You can't. You start where you start where you are, right, rather than where you'd rather be. One of them is called Georg Schmidt. He's a telephone operator, and he's caught trying to phone through to the garrison at La Presbytère.
But then immediately
he surrenders in the nick of time.
He hand-hops.
Because I think he's got the message. They've killed a load of blokes who stood around with their hands in their pockets.
It's quite a strong message, to be fair.
It's quite a strong message. The other is Johannes Tevis, or Teuvus, I think.
Teuvus.
Right in. He's a Würzburg operator, and he's found 10 feet down the cliff, having tried to escape. And Lieutenant Young describes him as looking quite funny, trying to scramble back up the cliff with his hands up.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think Young's a cruel.
Don't you?
He is a cruel bastard.
Yeah, but he's not without a sense of humour.
He's not without a sense of humour. So immediately, Teuvus is immediately interrogated by Private Newman slash
AKA Nagel,
who's the German Jew who's been attached to C Company. And, you know, we talked about how Frost wasn't happy about another stranger. But he makes a point of tearing off Teuvus's Luftwaffe insignia with its Nazi emblem. And they say, why have you done that? He goes, for my own satisfaction. Fair.
Fair
right?
enough, fair.
Fair. Yeah.
It's a signal of intent.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Newman, he demands to know the enemy's strength, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
And Teuvus replies 1,000.
Yeah.
And Newman knows he's lying, so shakes him by the lapels.
Grabs him by the lapels.
Yeah, you'll do thanks, fine.
And meanwhile, Sergeant McGregor takes more direct action, punches him around the jaw. Oink.
And he immediately goes, yeah, actually, it's probably only 100.
It's probably only 100.
Divided by
which is
10.
what they know, because the intelligence is that good.
Do you think Newman goes liar, and then says, wehaveways of making you talk?
But they did have a way of making him talk.
Yeah, punch to the
Sergeant
gob.
McGregor said, wehaveways of making you talk, pal. Oink. And what's interesting is Frost, even as he goes to Thruxton that night, gets updated intelligence, new photographs, the whole thing.
Right.
So that the intel is really flowing. Although that makes him nervous because he thinks if the RAF are overflying the site, the Germans are going to know it's coming. Because Frost's so interesting because he's honest about how you want to go but you don't want to go. You're scared. You're concerned. You're worried about your guys. You're worried about yourself. He never shies away from telling you how that all feels, which I think is really interesting because he's
Dear reader.
Yeah, exactly. So now, with the radio location positions safe, it's time for Captain Vernon and the sappers, Corps of Engineers, hurrah for the CRE, to come up and start dismantling the Würzburg.
But get on with it, chaps.
Get on with it, yeah. So
this is where Coxey gets to work.
Yeah. And I love Flight Sergeant Charles.
He's a projectionist.
Yeah, he's a projectionist. They found, though, that the tools aren't up to the job. That they've brought the wrong tools. They've got a long screwdriver to undo, and the screwdriver's not.
Well, they
long
need
enough.
the Phillips, but they've got a flathead.
It's basically.
Oh no!
Why did we not bring a?
My socket set. It's in metric. It's imperial, not metric.
I mean, this is kind of thing. Anyway, Cox is struck by how well the Würzburg has been made.
Obviously, it's German.
Yeah, quality of the workmanship.
Why is he surprised?
Well. I think actually faced with the reality of it,
It's made by Telefunken.
It's made by Telefunken. Anyway, he thinks the quality of the workmanship far exceeds the kit he's familiar with at home. And he says about the dish, and I think you should be Charles Cox, Jim, because otherwise I'm doing everybody. Go on.
Was housed in a kind of pit in the ground with a 2-foot wall running round it above ground level. The wall was made of turf and roofed with duck boards. The whole thing looked very much like a searchlight, except for a little cabin on the side.
And the men stand up around. It's like he's here. The men stand up around the. You got tickets for the matinee?
Yeah, just running it through now.
Yeah, have you seen King Kong? It's incredible.
Oh, absolutely amazing.
Godwin
Personally, I prefer Bambi.
Godwin wins in colour. But the men are standing up around the dish to work on it. It's all and it's flat at Bruneval. It's this big flat open
as a
space.
board.
No cover.
No.
Right? So they cut away the radio element and the cable from the aerial to the box. But the Germans are now waking up.
Ah, Gott in Himmel, what is going on?
And we've come to the part of the raid, which is
the hiccupy bit.
The hiccupy bit, right? Because we've said before in the podcast, this is unequivocally the most successful British airborne operation of the Second World War. The fact it lasts 2.5 hours, right, rather than 9 days. I mean, maybe there's your problem.
Yeah. Okay. The bottom line is, well, we'll talk about this at the end, but this is how airborne forces should be used.
Yeah.
Strike and grab
on scale, on this scale, So fire has now started to come in from the farm complex at La Presbytere, the farm building.
But it's wild. It's night.
Yeah, but it's fire, right? And
it's flat.
And it's flat. There's no cover. So and the Germans have also they're firing. Their position is one of cover, so they can organise themselves as they choose, right? And Frost decides that he's got to fall back from the villa to the radar equipment because his party are up at the radar equipment. The radar equipment's between the beach and the villa, or between the cliffs and the villa. The beach is below the cliffs.
Yes.
So he thinks, right, well, we'll
How tall are those cliffs there?
I think they're sort of 300 feet.
Oh, wow. So decent.
Something like that, yeah. Anyway, fire starts zipping in. So Frost says, okay, let's get out of here and go back and protect the radar party. So as his party are leaving, one of the men, Private McIntyre, is killed by a sniper.
Oh, no.
So the German shooting isn't bad. Or they say by a sniper. I mean, he's killed by a rifleman.
He's killed by a bullet.
Killed by a bullet. We don't know. But this means the Germans are now waking up and they are now responding. And this is probably, there's probably, I don't know, this has taken 20 minutes for the Germans to get their act together.
About that. Sounds about right, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
And Coxey's still there trying to get his imperial spanners to work on a metric system.
Exactly. And bullets are zipping overhead over the Würzburg as Vernon's party are working on the Würzburg. It's becoming more dangerous. And Charles Cox, he describes this.
All this time, the German bullets were zinging by, some striking the radar equipment. Each time we flashed a light to see what we were doing, there were howls of protest from our companion parachutists. I can now understand how they felt. We were busy, they were just standing or kneeling there being shot at.
Well, and so what they then decide to do is that Vernon decides the best option is to rip the remaining parts out by brute force.
Yes.
Which is in the... I spoke to a sapper friend of mine about this, and he said, well, that's the true tradition of the Corps of Engineers. In the end they got a crowbar and just wrenched the fucking thing out. Oh, well. And it's at this point that Frost begins to really rue the command structure.
Right, okay.
Or lack of it.
Why?
That's been imposed on him. Well, he wants a company HQ where runners can come back.
Yes, I remember that. And that was he had a bit of beef about that.
Exactly. He wants to be able to be in the middle and go, okay, so you need help here, I'll direct help here. Rather than all the parties kind of left to their own devices.
And the number 38 radio sets aren't working properly.
No.
Quelle surprise.
That's priced in, right? The radio. And the thing is, if you talk to modern soldiers, they don't expect the radios to work properly. It's never changed.
Right? I mean, literally every time you say broadsword calling Danny Boy, you're expecting to have no answer on you.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we've often talked about how in Normandy, the sort of firepower in Normandy, if you're a captain, you can call in an aggro strike, like a Mike target, call in 600 guns to blat a square mile or whatever and deal with the opposition. Well, yeah, if the radio works. But
it's quite a sticky situation suddenly.
Yes, yeah, because starting a raid like this is one thing.
Getting out of it
is quite another, and I think. And whatever delay the Germans could inflict now will eat away at Frost's chances of eat away his chances of getting away, let alone getting the Würzburg back to Britain. And it's 600 yards to the beach, which doesn't sound like much. But is enough in a wide open space without any cover. This is the problem, And in the confusion, there's a voice heard to call up from the beach below, saying the beach is clear and the Navy have arrived. So they set off down the path to the beach, and a machine gun opens up on them, and rounds actually hit Cox's trolley with the stuff in, and one of the pieces of the Würzburg that he's holding.
I mean, the Würzburg's not that small.
No, they've broken it up into pieces, and he's got a bit under his arm. Boink, rounds peeling off it. Right.
All right.
Company Sergeant Major Strachan is following Frost, and he's struck by 7 rounds.
No.
Yeah, some in the stomach. He's gravely injured. So Frost runs back 50 yards to the company Sergeant Major, gives him a shot of morphine. So there you go, mate. You're all right. You'll be fine. And then, with Lieutenant Young, they shout over the gunfire to each other what they're going to do about getting to the beach and clearing the way to the beach. Because something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Right? And they know they've got to clear the pillboxes overlooking the beach.
Yeah.
And then there's a voice from the beach, which is Captain Ross, which is the other half of the Nelson party that went to the right place and has managed to deploy in the right place, calling up saying the beach is not secure. And the firefight breaks out on the beach. So it's all going wrong. Every aspect of it is now, the whole thing is beginning to
unravel quite fast.
Unravel. And the reason is that half of the Nelson party, the party designated to cover C Company's exit, has been split in two, and they've gone to the wrong place.
And it's all Percy Pickard's fault.
Well, I don't want to pin the blame on Percy Pickard's pipe. But possibly. We have to pick a peck of Percy Pickard's peckers right now. Anyway, so these 20 men under Second Lieutenant Ewan Charteris, they've landed the other side of the village to the south, some 2.5 miles away.
Okay, so a stretch, but not.
Yeah. And there's the accounts differ about the distance, right? Some say it's 1.5 miles, some it's 2 miles, some 2.5 miles. But it's the other side of the village. So there's an obstacle they've got to get through, right?
Yeah.
So Charteris decides this is actually pretty simple. We'll head towards the sound of the gunfire at the radar site, and we'll double through the village where the Germans are known to be garrisoned, because that's probably, in the confusion, actually the simplest thing to do and the quickest route.
And also, that will also cast a huge amount of confusion for the Germans if they're suddenly being attacked from the other side.
You lean into the confusion, right?
Lean into it, exactly.
And as they're pressing on hard, they're doubling, so they're running at 6 miles an hour with all their quick kit or whatever. A German soldier manages to join the back of the column.
Yeah.
Because
he's confused. He's thinking,
hullabaloo, better follow the lads to wherever they're going. And he's on the end of the column, and they... Maybe he thinks they're Fallschirmjäger because the helmets look similar, right?
Yeah.
Or not even that. They just think they're Germans. They look like German lids. So this unfortunate German is then dealt with, he realises his error and he's dealt with. And accounts differ. So one account is that Lieutenant Charteris goes to kill him with his revolver, forgets to turn the safety off. So one of the other boys shoots him with a Sten gun. The other is that he's, done with a commando knife. Throat slit. And I think... either way, poor sod.
he's dead.
I mean, yet another tragedy in the Second World War. He thought he was helping out.
Thought he was doing the right thing.
Exactly. But it proves that in the noise and confusion, pressing on hard through the village is actually their best option, because they aren't resisted. So then they duck out of the village, having picked up some men from the Rodney party under Second Lieutenant John Timothy, who's a former guardsman who's been commissioned from the ranks, right? And they set up a bren to cover them as they dash across the open space, the ground between the village and the entrance to the top of the cliffs. And Frost's astonished to see Charteris, who's after all meant to be down on the beach.
Yes.
Right? What are you doing here, right? And Charteris has lost, 4 guys have got lost on the way in the darkness.
Okay, well, that's not too bad.
Yeah, but at least he's made it. So Frost knew it's time to decide to invest in securing C Company's exit. That's the effort now. Obviously, something was seriously wrong with this part of the plan, and just as I was going across to see John Timothy of Rodney to order him to put in an immediate attack from his positions, a man came from behind us to see that the Germans had reoccupied the villa and were advancing against us from that direction. And these are short distances. Here again, we are at a disadvantage, as my men were armed only with Sten guns and grenades, and the unorthodox formations we had adopted meant that I personally had to lead the party back to deal with this new threat, while I had many other things to think of.
Here's someone in his company headquarters.
Yeah. So things are really starting to unravel now. Charles Cox is waiting to get down onto the beach, and he recalls...
There was still a lot of noise coming from the village. We could hear the Bren guns echoing down a gully and the crash of exploding Mills bombs. We descended about 1/4 of the way to the beach when from the pillboxes on the cliff on the other side of the gully came a terrific hail of machine gun fire. The snow shooting up at my feet showed how near we were to getting a packet.
So, time is of the essence. To summarise, C Company, Jock Company of 2 Para under Major John Frost, they've been dropped on the French coast near Le Havre to capture a Würzburg A radar set.
That's a big dish.
So that Robert Watson Watts, Boffins, R.V. Jones, F.C. Frank, and the other clever people can have a proper look at German radio location technology, as they call it. And Frost and his men have a couple of hours from when they land at about 1:15 midnight before the Royal Navy is supposed to arrive to rescue them, and the race is on. And the Germans have been caught by surprise to start with, but they've started to wake up. And as all airborne ops go, there's confusion. And this is exacerbated by half of the party, dubbed Nelson by planners, who are supposed to secure the beach, being dropped in the wrong place.
Yep. So they've got to tab through the village
as hard as they can.
They've taken out a single German who's got a bit confused and tabbed onto the back of them.
It's a sad tragedy.
It is, isn't it?
It's a tragic business. Now, this group under Second Lieutenant Ewan Charteris, they've tabbed hard through the village of Bruneval, and they arrive at the cliff top in the nick of time with cries of Kapafai! And I went on the internet to find out how to pronounce it, which is the Seaforth Highlanders war cry, because this is a battalion made up of Scots men and a few officers. Kappa, right? Now, Frost orders him to attack immediately.
What, towards?
Down towards relieve the rest of
Presbyterian.
Nelson, who are in a fight.
Oh.
Right, yeah.
Down on the beach?
Down on the beach.
Where are the bunkers? Out on the top or at the bottom?
There's a couple overlooking, and then there's emplacements and stuff. Lots and lots of wire. No minefields as Rémy and Paul Roger and Charlemagne.
Also known as Roger.
Also known as Roger. And so the idea is that this half of Nelson should join up with the other half of Nelson, which is under the C Company's 2IC, Captain John Ross.
Two halves to make a complete Nelson.
Precisely. Yeah, we're no longer on a half Nelson here. And they clear the house. Then the idea is to clear the house that dominates the beach itself.
What about the people from the Germans from Presbyterian?
Well, they're being held by Rodney, is the idea.
Okay.
Rodney is holding them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. You've got to get off the beach, and the beach isn't secure.
Have they got any brands?
They've Bren guns, they've Sten guns, they've some rifles, but they're nothing heavier than that.
No.
They have no mortars.
No.
Which would be, I think, kind of useful in this situation.
Yeah.
Anyway, Charteris, he leads his men down the cliff, and there's a road that runs down to the cliff. There's a sunken track to the beach, and he says he feels as naked as a baby.
Yeah, you can imagine.
Yeah, in his report just after the operation, and they are about 70 yards from the house, and with a volley of grenades, they storm
the villa, the house,
the house at the bottom. There's a house on the beach,
right
at the bottom, that dominates the beach, overlooks the beach, sat up from the sand, right. And if you go there now, it's changed. It's a beach resort now. It's a bit different.
Right.
The space above is roughly the same. But anyway, they get into the house and they find there's one man with a machine gun called Schmidt.
Of course he is.
Who promptly surrenders, who does his handy nice and hot.
Hand hock.
And Schmidt says, I wondered whether I should fire, but I could not bring myself to shoot into a man's body at a range of few yards. I therefore surrendered.
It's a good German.
Yeah, but also a wise thing to do, given the fact that they've been
butchering people with gay abandon.
Gay abandon, yeah. And the thing is the truth is that Germans have not manned their defensive positions adequately. Because I think
they're not going to be top drawer, are they? Let's face it.
Well, yeah, but I also think the Germans probably think it's going to come from the sea, and they'll have due warning.
But even in 1942, these aren't going to be top trumps.
No, they aren't. No.
On the Eastern Front.
No, exactly. And Charteris says, if Jerry had the wit or guts to put up a good resistance, he must have done us great damage, for all he had to do was lob a grenade into us when we were in the sunken road. He did not, however, do so.
The fool.
The fool. Jerry's a fool. He had neither the wit nor the guts, Jim.
No.
But what this shows is that margins on airborne operations, like biting and like all those to come, is that they're fine margins.
Yes. I suppose in mitigation of the Germans, unlike the British, there's around 100. They haven't got a faintest idea what's going on, and they've got people coming through the village, from south of the village, from all over. There seems to be shooting everywhere. It's a dark night, the snow on the ground.
Exactly. An enemy reaction is the difference between success and failure. Is what I think you can tell this now about airborne ops. What the enemy elects to do is the difference between whether it works out or not. You can be as full of vim and vigour as anybody else, and be the sharpest soldiers on the planet.
Nuts.
But enemy reaction is the key, because bullets will kill good soldiers the same way they'll kill bad ones.
Yep.
You're still only flesh and blood, and because they have no heavy weapons, if they are mortared, there's no counter battery fire, or if they're shelled, there's no counter battery fire option at all. They just have to surrender if that starts. Right. Anyway. As the sappers withdrew, they blow up. As they withdraw, they blow up what's left of the Würzburg emplacement. So Charlie Cox says,
"We began to descend when there was a large explosion from behind us. There was one less Würzburg. The REs had blown it up."
That's right. So Cox gets to the beach with the Würzburg and the other sappers, despite the kit they've been given, is the way he sees it. So he says,
"We found that the equipment could be carried much better on our shoulders than by trolley, so the trolleys were abandoned. We made our way down to the beach and found we had to wait. So we stowed the equipment in a safe position under the cliff, and as there was nothing else we could do, we just sat down and waited."
You know...
Yeah, give us a smoke, mate.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. Yeah, exactly.
Do you have a little brew?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they brew up at this point.
Boiled sweets.
I think it's boiled sweets at this point. Boiled sweets for your dry mouth. So with the beach secure, Charteris then gets his men into defensive positions, ready to hold the Germans off. And then Frost moves the rest, because that's the idea, is Nelson holds...
So you have a little kind of
crust.
perimeter.
And the idea is that Nelson are the last party off. So that's their job. They hold, and then everyone else filters out. The radar first, then everyone
Again,
else...
it's a bit like Dunkirk in miniature.
It's a mini... collapsing balloon, mini Dunkirk. So Frost moves his men actually onto the beach, onto the water's edge, ready to be rescued. But one question hangs heavy. Where's the Navy? Right. So at around 02:45 hours, so 2:45.
So they've been there 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours, right? Frost thinks his options are running out. So Charteris, at this point, lends the cricket jumper he's brought with him to keep warm in the aircraft, to keep Strawn warm.
Yeah.
Company Sergeant Major Strachan Strawn is now deep in shock.
Yeah.
And he afterwards says, I never did see that jumper again.
No, well.
But a cricket jumper, Jim.
I know, but these are the sacrifices one has to make.
But this is. I mean, I think what we have here is the perfect James Holland adventure.
Yeah.
It's got a cliff.
It's got an actual cricket sweater in it.
And an actual cliffhanger.
And a straight pipe.
Strawn has had to slither down the track on his bum with his stomach wounds to get down to the beach, full of morphine. So
how did he do it?
Well, it's not good. And what Frost is worried about is if the Germans are given too much time, they'll be able to bring up mortars
And organise themselves a bit.
And they'll get on the phone to, the Presbyterian garrison is one thing. They'll get on the phone to whoever's local and bring up some.
Yeah, and there's going to be a point where they're going to have to surrender. For them, the war will be over.
Exactly. And Charteris recalls a few shells coming in. So tension is mounting on the beach.
I can imagine.
Right? And there's Commander Cook, RAN. His ships are not responding to the signals being sent.
What the hell are they doing?
Well,
we know they're there.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. So Frost then he says, all right, we'll fire the very lights, we'll fire the flares, which is the last resort. Up they go. But the problem with that, of course, is you light yourself up for the Germans to look at.
It's better of two evils.
You've got to make a decision, haven't you?
Yeah.
So with his heart sinking, Frost begins to organise for a last-ditch defence of the beach, take his men back up onto the cliffs and dig in. Because they've not dug in at any point in this. They've not had time. So then Newman, Private Newman, Nagel, quizzes the prisoners again about possible German reaction strength, But they're Schmidt and Teuver and the other one.
Teuvers.
They're too scared to be of any use.
Yes. I know nothing.
I know nothing.
They probably don't.
Please don't hit me again, Sergeant McGregor. Right? And Frost says, it looked as though we'd be going to be left high and dry, and the thought was hard to bear. Just as we'd finished tidying up the perimeter, there came a joyful shout from one of the signallers. Sir, the boats are coming in. The boats are here. God bless the ruddy navy, sir. And I think that may have been tidied up.
Yes. Recollections may vary.
Exactly. But this is the thing, is Cook's flotilla they haven't just sailed across the channel and come back. They've been fortunate to miss a Schnellboot patrol.
And we all know what Schnellboots are like.
Yeah, well, and LCAs and the motor gunboats, it just needs to be that part of the plan just needs to be disrupted at all.
And you're screwed.
And the Navy will go, not worth it, we're out of here. And the assault ship, the Prince Albert, is already gone back to loiter off Portsmouth. He's not there for the LCAs to liaise with. They're going to tow the assault craft back.
Yeah.
The radar having been put on one of the motor gunboats, though.
Yeah, that's the important bit. The men are expendable. The radar isn't.
The infantry are consumable in this. So
how much drama do you want?
Well, it's all here, isn't it? So the LCAs are supposed to come in 2 by 2, right? This is what they practice. They all come in all at once.
Of course they do.
Of course they do. And as arranged, the wounded are taken off first with the Würzburg, right?
Yep.
Then all hell breaks loose, complete collapse of order, the men rushing on to embark, all the practices they'd done at Loch Fyne, out the window. And of course, the last exercise they did with the Navy, which was on one of the nights the operation was cancelled, or postponed rather, had been a complete cock-up, a complete disaster. So they're training with the Navy.
So confidence has been undermined in that final practice.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So wading out to the boats, distress at the chaotic...
I'm looking after number one, pal.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, exactly. I get you here, pal. And Frost is one of the last to leave. He does the right thing.
Obviously, yeah. He's IC.
Left behind are some of Charteris's defensive party and 2 signallers.
What? Left behind?
Left behind. They don't make it. They don't get on board. Because it's dark, it's confusing.
Yeah. But how many are we talking about here?
So it's about 6 guys are left behind.
Okay, it's not too many.
It's not too many. On board the LCAs, though, there are Welsh commandos with a load of Bren guns. So when they pull up, they just open up.
And just let rip.
Yeah. And they're firing at the Germans on the cliff tops. The noise blasting over the evacuation. Frost says the noise is sort of like completely, it's absolutely deafening.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Frost goes to Commander Cook and says, "Can we go back and get the missing blokes, please?" And Cook, of course, refuses point blank.
No.
Well, no, mate. Absolutely not.
Well, of course, he's an Aussie.
Exactly. Fuck you, Frosty.
Yeah.
That ain't happening, fair dinkum.
Not doing F's and Poms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they need to go before the Kriegsmarine put in a proper appearance.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because after all,
Yeah. They've already dodged one Schnell boot.
Exactly. And as they're leaving, Frost he's really, really anxious for the men left behind.
Yeah. Well, you would be, wouldn't you?
And has to be told, the raid's a success. You've done it. You've got the Würzburg.
Well, you haven't got it home yet.
But you've got the Würzburg, you've got an operator, they're on the way home. You've done your bit, right? It's the Navy now and the RAF fighter escort in the morning that have got to deliver. You have pulled it off completely. And again, we come back to the thing Frost cares about is his blokes. And he's so anxious that people have been left behind that he can't see that this thing is like he's completely knocked out the park, particularly as the plan went wrong. It wasn't the command structure he wanted. His men, his officers have absolutely delivered. It couldn't be any better, right? Yeah. So for the cost of 2 killed, 6 wounded.
So who are the 2 killed? One has been
McIntyre and another guy. Yeah. 6 wounded, 6 missing or captured.
Yeah.
German losses are talked up by the British afterwards. Boyd Browning says we killed 40 Germans, and of course, probably not, right? Probably the people who are killed are the guy in the villa and the radar operators who were rather enthusiastically bumped off.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. They've got the Würzburg A. It's been captured. Biting had bit. We close the last part with C Company. Yeah. Having lost 2 men killed, 6 wounded, 6 missing. They're on the LCAs.
Yes, they are.
They have the Würzburg A.
Wow.
They're on their way home.
Yeah.
We'll get to what this raid amounts to, what it leads to in a bit.
Yeah.
But I think what's really interesting is there's lots of footage of these.
5 knots or so.
I know. So
that's painfully slow. That's like the Ohio coming into Grand Harbour.
There's footage of this. There's the motor gunboats towing the LCAs in threes. So they're towing 3
LCAs. As I say, it's very on message for Sea Line. Yeah. The German plan to tow everyone across the channel.
Yeah. So at dawn, fighter escort overhead appears from 11 Group.
Yeah, because of course dawn's late. It's
February.
Double summertime as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And the clocks haven't gone forward.
No.
And the third component of the RAF's, which is the third component of the RAF's contribution to biting, because they've done diversionary raids. They put the parachuted the lads in 51 Squadron under Percy Pickard's pipe, and then they're also providing fighter escort. And word is already out, right? They know what they're escorting, and they fly down and waggle their wings to salute the lads coming home.
Look out for that Fokker Wolf.
Yeah, exactly.
Look out for those fuckers.
I say. And in the footage, one of the things you'll notice is that the men are wearing their bonnets because they're from Scottish regiments. Yes. They're not wearing maroon berets.
Not yet.
Not yet. And the mythos of
Frost is still wearing his helmet.
Yeah, the mythos of the maroon beret is not yet upon us, right? They're not Red Devils yet, because that's North Africa. And even then, is that to do with the clay, the red clay on there? Anyway, in addition, so the Luftwaffe don't put in an appearance. They never show up.
Yep.
The Paras are all exhausted and exhilarated. It's all gone well. In addition to this, Free French chasseurs.
Which are?
The Bayonne, the Calais.
I don't know, but what is a chasseur?
Is it a destroyer, a chasseur?
No. Is it?
Is it a frigate?
Yes, it is. I think it's a destroyer, isn't it?
Yeah. The Bayonne, the Calais, the L'Armor, and the Lavandou show up to escort the LCAs and their
tugs.
Who
are you serving with? I'm serving with Le Lavandou.
I'm on Le Lavandou. And the Royal Navy then turn up with some destroyers, HMS Blencathra and HMS Fernie, offering to escort the conquering heroes back to base.
Yeah, in the days when we had a navy. Yeah.
And they blare Rule Britannia from their speakers.
Of course they do. Yeah.
I mean, everyone. Just shows how desperate everyone is for some good news, right?
Yeah.
And the good news travels fast.
Yeah. We've won the war.
We've won the war.
We've got the
because
Würzburg.
These guys they've gone ashore and they've destroyed a German Würzburg. They've destroyed the radar. And I often think about this. If you're someone in the know who knows half of what's going on here, you know that from the newspapers, you know they've stolen it. If you're at all savvy, you don't think for a minute they've just popped in and destroyed a radar set. You know they've pinched it, right?
Yeah.
For all the secrecy. It's obvious, isn't it?
Obvious.
Right? I mean, because what's the point in just destroying one?
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, but you're denying it. You're conceded now.
Yes, it's plausible, right? So Cox is with the Würzburg gear and he's debriefed immediately on the MGB by a scientist from the Technical Research Establishment at Swanage, a man called Donald Priest. And Priest, if things had gone better, was supposed to come ashore and have a look, but he doesn't. So Cox describes this encounter. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so Coxey says, saying the words of Donald Priest, he goes, "Now, Flight Sergeant, I want a description of everything you saw before memory becomes clouded," he said. "Permission to be sick, sir," I retorted, never having been to sea before. "You can be sick later," he replied. "At the moment, greater issues than your physical comfort are at stake." Oh, why are we like that now?
Oh, we are, Jim. We can be.
It's fantastic.
We can
I
be.
told him all I knew about the German radar, also the impressions I gathered of the construction. At the end, I was released and was sick, made an immediate recovery and drank a mug of sweet, strong tea, then fell asleep in the captain's bunk.
How about that? Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting things is in another account, when he says, "I think it's really well made," Priest says, "I think you better keep that under your hat."
Yeah. Yeah, let's not brag about that.
Let's not talk about that, tell anyone about that.
You can be sick later.
You can be sick. It's just brilliant, isn't it? Greater issues than your physical comfort are at stake.
That's a line, isn't it?
It certainly is.
I want to use it more often in conversation.
But Cox is awarded the military medal, which is really unusual for an airman.
Good.
And in later life, he'd wear an RAF beret with a Parachute Regiment badge on it.
Beautiful.
Little Para-Reg badge. Because
Beautiful.
if anyone's earned it.
It's him.
Yeah. So 08:15 hours, Commander Cook, Royal Australian Navy, signals Commander-in-Chief Portsmouth, Bubbles.
Yes. Bubbles,
that the raid has been a triumph and all craft are present and returning to port. And so news then spreads quickly in the dockyard and the press rush to Portsmouth, a crowd shows as the flotilla returns.
Amazing.
And the first to arrive off Spithead is MGB 312, which has the...
I mean, how many great naval moments have happened off Spithead?
It's incredible, isn't it? Right? And this arrives with the captured Würzburg. Cox, Priest, Frost is on board. She pulls alongside the Prince Albert at 1000 hours. Then the rest all toddle into the Solent at around 4:30 that afternoon.
It's been a long day.
I know.
Bet they drank a lot of tea.
They drank a lot of tea. Well, I think there may be some rum on offer for the
Tot or
Paras.
two, yep.
Yeah, exactly. And they're all crammed below decks, the Paras. They're not having a good time on the MGB, actually.
No.
But by 1800, they're transferred onto the Prince Albert that then sails into Portsmouth and drops them off, arriving at about 10 o'clock that night.
Loving it.
And you'd think they implaned 24 hours earlier. And again, Royal Britannia as they arrive.
Let's make the most of it.
Press and photographers. Wing Commander Pickard shows up. Percy Pickard shows up. And there's a great picture of him with some Paras examining a German helmet that someone brought home with him. Yeah. And there's also a picture.
And you've seen that helmet.
I've seen that helmet. We'll talk about it in a War Waffle episode sometime. And Toivers,
is he captured?
He's brought home with them with the Würzburg. We'll talk about him in a minute.
I bet he hadn't expected that 24 hours earlier.
Of course not. And there's a picture of him being searched on one of the boats by a Para who has his number 4 rifle and Mauser that he's taken as a trophy over his shoulder.
Love it.
And he doesn't have his Luftwaffe badges on, Toivers, because he's had them torn off by Private Nagel / Newman. So it's 120 raiders, 12 sticks of 10 men, 2 dead, 8 wounded, or 6 wounded. Again, the figures vary, interestingly. 6 missing. The Würzburg captured. German losses, something similar. As we said, Major General Branning said that Frost boys had killed 40 Germans.
Wow,
they did not kill 40 Germans.
No.
But The thing is, of the rest of C Company and what happens to them, many then go on to lose their lives in North Africa. And Ewan Charteris, for instance, his account is from just after Bruneval, and he's killed in North Africa when Two Power are sent in some really harebrained operations. I think we will get around to on the podcast at some time because
we're going to do a thing on Tunisia.
We have to, but I think even just what the 3 parachute battalions find themselves doing, where they're sent on these harebrained airborne operations and then they're kept in the line because their value as shock troops.
Well, maybe we should do Tunisia as one thing and that the airborne ops in North Africa as another.
I mean, Frost stands at the door to choose where he's going to parachute.
Well, we probably could do a detailed series on paras in Sicily, couldn't we?
We could do all of this, Jim, because after all, it's a bottomless pit. So, the following morning, Frost longs for a warm bed, fresh clothing, but he says, but before that, there was some serious drinking to do.
Aye.
And I do not doubt it that he got thoroughly. I mean, when he arrived in Bruneval, he went for a slash. Now he's back in Portsmouth. He's going on the lash.
Yes, from slash to lash.
From slash to lash, the John Frost story.
And then slash again.
Then slash again, I imagine. So the following morning at Tilshead, the glider pilot regiment officers, which is where they C Company billeted, at breakfast, they're reading the papers saying to Frost, "Good God, I wonder who these chaps could have been."
Modesty
forbids. But what then happens, and we started the previous episode with Frost's I had to go to Westminster.
Yes, we did.
Because I was there.
Yeah.
And I think his account is an extraordinary snapshot of the War Cabinet in late February 1942. The personalities. So he's summoned before his debrief.
And this is to the Churchill War Rooms.
Yeah.
As they're now called.
Yeah.
Imperial War Museum's very own.
Yeah, with Boyd Browning. So he's rushed to Birdcage Walk to take the cabinet through what's happened. And Churchill is there, siren suit, cigar, right?
Yeah.
So your image of Winston Churchill in the sort of...
He's on message.
Dark phase of the war. He's in his siren suit. And so they're all gathered together, the War Cabinet and various others. And Combined Operations Headquarters Supremo, Lord Mountbatten, tells the story of the raid.
LLM.
And Frost is really impressed at how well he's across it. He knows all the details. And of course, the papers have told the story, but not the reason for the raid. And I love this. As Mountbatten starts, Archibald Sinclair, who's an air minister, who's a Liberal minister, and Anthony Eden, the Foreign Secretary, start talking amongst themselves. And Churchill stops Mountbatten and says, "Come over here, you two, and listen to this, for then you might learn something for once in your lives."
Yeah.
You're right there.
Yeah.
So
or else you can go on the naughty step.
Yeah. So Mountbatten proceeds. Again, the PM stops him and asks Frost to verify Mountbatten's version of events. Major Frost, please tell us. Right? And Frost is able to confirm that, yes, that's what's happened, even down to the name of the sergeant, everything. When the account of the raid's done, Portal is asked to explain exactly what seizing the Würzburg radar means for the war effort. And Portal starts up with, the frequency wavelength that the Germans are operating on, blah, blah, blah. And Churchill says, "Now just stop all that nonsense, Portal, and put it into language that ordinary, normal mortals can understand."
And Portal replies, "We now have every hope of not only being able to improve our own radar, but that at some future date of our own choosing, we will be able to jam the whole of the enemy radar advanced warning system."
That is what it's all about.
Yes.
And this is why Portal's there, because this is all about the bomber offensive. No two ways about it. So then Churchill asks Frost to take him through the raid using the model that they've got, because they brought the model from Tilshead for them to look at.
Yeah.
And Churchill does this whole thing.
Frost has got an opportunity to win a VC there and then.
Well, we'll come to that. we'll come to that. And Browning starts pestering Portal for planes, saying, "You never give me any aircraft for my airborne forces. Here's your proof of concept." And Portal literally raises his fist in a play fight style.
It's all good japes.
It's all good japes. Frost is dismissed, and he was in the bath when he was summoned, so he then goes to his London club and has a bath that was interrupted at Tilshead, right? So Frost then becomes a bit of a celebrity. He meets the King and the Queen. He's awarded a military cross. He goes up and down the country telling the story of the Bruneval Raid, which is possibly why the story is well rehearsed in his memoir, right? And obviously, Singapore's just fallen. The war in the desert is curdling fast.
I think he could have got a DSO for that, to be fair.
Well, again, we'll get to the question of what he's awarded with and how and why a bit later, because there is a conversation that Victor Dover has with Louis Mountbatten where anyway. Well, no, I'll eat my sandwich now. Basically, Louis Mountbatten says to Victor Dover in like 1978, before he's killed, Dover says, why didn't Frost get a VC? And he said if he'd taken more casualties, he would have got a Victoria Cross. But the fact that he pretty much brought everyone home, it wasn't a bloodbath, means he gets an MC. He said, I tried, but the War Office weren't having it. And you think, that's your calculus?
Yeah, it sounds about right, though, doesn't it?
Does sound about right. But Frost is a glimmer of hope,
Yeah.
Good news. It's a fresh martial spirit couched in innovation.
He's got a hunting horn.
It's success.
Yeah.
And when the King comes to visit Frost, they're meant to do a parachute demo, but on arrival at Tilshead, the King decides to visit the guard room and say hello to the chaps in the guard room as they're stood at the door, as they're parachuting. So he misses the first half of the parachute demo because he's going, and what do you do? And someone's going, well, Your Majesty, I answer the phone or whatever, right?
Well done.
And so they managed to get a message up to the...
It's a frightfully important job.
Frightfully important job. They managed to get the second pair of planes to wait. So that when the King comes out of the guard room, they down come.
You're from Ayrshire, aren't you? I've been there. Very nice.
But Frost says that the King made a great impression on him. He says, I must admit to being captivated and found it easy thereafter to say with heart and voice, God save the King. Indeed, this could be very useful at times, even though not said aloud. Different times, Jim.
I don't know, I mean...
Anyway... But I mean, aside from the sort of this extraordinary bit of daring do and all this, is what do we get? What do the British
let's get cut to the quick on this.
Right. So
is it worth it?
The Würzburg A radar, in the raid in technological terms, is a plain success.
Yes.
No two ways about it. Getting their hands on the Würzburg A, the TRA, the Technical Research Establishment, is able to see the state of the standard art in Germany. Not the most advanced thing, but what they're using.
Yep.
For everything.
Yeah.
Mass-produced radar. 4,000 of these sets have been built, right? So Flight Sergeant Cox's initial judgment the Würzburg is very well manufactured is borne out. Everyone agrees it's really beautifully put together. But it's not surprising in itself as a piece of kit. The switching unit that comes with it is of great interest. But the rest of it, they actually go, well, they haven't caught up with us. Our stuff is actually as good as or better than theirs. They aren't innovating particularly well.
Right.
And the capture of the Würzburg A leads directly to the development of window. The foil strips that, the most famously used on the Hamburg raid that caused. So this raid leads directly to...
And the adoption of the bomber stream.
Yeah, the bomber stream.
Which is the idea that you go in a mass and flood.
You go over one. You go over one radar location point rather than lots.
Yeah, and you
so
flood
then you're through. And the bomber stream comes directly from this. And window. And, the Bruneval Raid leads directly to the destruction of Hamburg.
Yeah.
In your balance sheet, Private
McIntyre
and the other para killed on the raid lead directly to the Hamburg raid.
Yeah.
And because they know this, it's harder for the Germans to read Bomber Command's intentions on a raid, right? And you can spoof, because you overwhelm one radar with a spoof raid, another with another, and the Germans never know which way to turn. And this is the thing they learn from getting their hands on the Würzburg.
Yep.
Personnel is the other really interesting thing. So Teuvers, the operator who they've picked up, he doesn't know how the Würzburg works. He doesn't know what it is.
He just does what he's told.
He does what he's told. He thought it could see the enemy somehow. He keeps talking about how it can see. It doesn't know it's a radio echolocation device, right?
Wow.
He doesn't believe it works well in bad weather because the clouds obscure the...
But this is bollocks.
It's bollocks, right? And the TRE...
Yeah.
Well, read this, Jim, because this is fantastic.
The prisoner was rather childlike and extremely unsoldierly in mentality. It is probable that with time he would have acquired considerable manual skill in following a target with his apparatus, but it is quite certain that he would never have understood its working. The slightest abnormal event would either cause him to declare his apparatus unserviceable, or more probably to continue cheerfully taking totally erroneous observations.
Isn't that interesting?
They're not as good as us.
They're not as good as us. I mean, the fact is, maybe if Lieutenant
They're
Young
inferior.
Yeah, but maybe if Lieutenant Young hadn't killed all the others, there'd be a different assessment, because they maybe would have found the brain.
I know, but it was heat of the moment and his brother's up.
But isn't that interesting?
Yes.
Because they haven't got their best people on it. And their training isn't the thing where you're told what the principles are before you get into work.
Said it before, say it again. German army's not as well trained as everyone thinks.
No. And the TRE conclude from this that no matter how good the German kit might be, their manpower problems mean they haven't got the sharpest minds working on radio location.
Don't know what to do.
But isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing.
And a subtle thing, right? And this suggests a weakness the Germans might have no solution to, right? Regardless of technical innovation.
Yeah.
You can make the best kit
Best
you
kit in the
want.
world, we haven't got the men.
You haven't got the people.
And by the way, they're all being killed on the Eastern Front.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And the other thing the TRE realise...
All being sent to gas chambers, of course.
Well, of course, yeah. The other thing the TRE realise from the Bruneval Raid is that maybe being in Swanage on the coast isn't the best place for the radar research establishment. Because from aerial photography, it's blindingly obvious. They do their own aerial photography on Swanage and go, oh shit, it looks like a great big radar site. It's obvious what this is, right? And they go, it would be very difficult, it'd be very, very difficult to blame the Germans for pulling off a similar attack on Swanage. And we'd only have to blame ourselves, right? And there's a rumour that an airborne Fallschirmjäger movement unit has moved to northern France just after Bruneval. And so they're thinking, oh, crap, right? And within 3 months, TRE's gone to Malvern. And then the other thing, though, the other thing is the Germans then start to defend their Würzburgs more thoroughly with an unintended consequence. And again, this is from the TRE report.
There were several sites which were formerly suspected to contain Würzburgs, which were insufficiently distinct on existing photographs to be identified. The Germans have now obligingly surrounded these sites with wire and have confirmed our suspicions. These sites were well maintained with the grass cut around the barbed wire. This method of betrayal might well be noticed by those responsible for camouflaging our own stations.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So they're mowing the lawn around the barbed wire and marking out the Würzburg.
Yeah, love it.
Because they need to defend the Würzburg rather than just conceal the blood. In the first episode, we said put a canvas outhouse over.
Yes, we did.
Right.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Isn't that interesting?
I mean, talk about schoolboy error.
But also talk about unintended consequences.
Yes.
And that very often you think you're doing, well, obviously we need to defend it. Defend the site.
Yeah.
Hide the site, lads. Hide it. Then you don't need to defend it. Anyway.
Come on, airborne ops.
Well, airborne operations. Now, things really couldn't have gone better for Major General Boyd Browning.
No.
Windy Gale, Brigadier Flavel, and John Frost.
Or Flavel.
Proof of concept, as well as proof of what else he needed fixing. Aircraft. They need aircraft. They need planes to be able to sort this out.
They got a lot of answers after the Bruneval Raid.
They do. And the fact that Churchill is there with Frost and Browning at the debrief. Because Churchill, there's a memo he sends out at the end of 1940 going, why is no one acting on any of the stuff I've told you to do regarding airborne forces? What the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Because he thinks sending a the will make it happen, and he's quite wrong.
Yeah. It sounds like me before the Chalk History Festival.
This is exactly it, right?
Why hasn't it happened?
Why hasn't it happened? So the shape of things to come seems to be what the raid offers. But it also, if you're looking closely, it shows what the vulnerabilities of airborne operations are. Some of which are unattended to, right? As we go forward, over-complex plans, especially in terms of the dilution of concentration of force, remains the default in British airborne operations. Unfortunately, particularly Market Garden.
Yeah.
And at Sicily, where it's far too ambitious what they're trying to achieve.
Just land in one place.
Yeah. Land in one place. Land in one place and don't leave anyone behind. All of you then proceed to the thing that you need to be dealing with rather than guarding other extraneous items.
Yep.
Anyway, this remains the British airborne way of doing things, and the attendant problems that follows. But, and as it gets bigger, as airborne shows get bigger, and Browning's intention has always been to be bigger, to the point you drop a division that's completely self-sufficient. These problems are compounded and multiplied.
Of course they are, yeah.
Right. And confusion and communication problems are part and parcel of airborne operations.
Yeah.
And the radios failed at Bruneval, and Frost gets a bollocking for leaving the radios behind.
Does he?
Because they're brand new. So there's technological exchange here.
Yeah.
Germans get a proper look at a 38 and an 18 set.
Yeah.
Because Frost leaves them behind. It's a fact of life that the radios can't be relied on, especially in the narrow timeframes that airborne operations work in. Because if you're a regular infantry unit, you come up to the line, you get your net keyed in. You've time. You don't have time. If you've 2.5 hours to make your radios work before you have anyway.
Yep.
I think it's all quite obvious. Now, aircraft, what's really interesting, they come in the form of the C-47 Dakota.
Yep.
The DC-3 comes online later in the year. Frost remarks that later in the year, these are marvellous because you had a seat to sit in, you could walk about, talk and even smoke. It's a different world to the Whitley. And these planes, the important thing about the C-47 is Bomber Command can't claim them.
No.
They can't say, well, we need those for bombing ops. They're sort of... And
they're bomber command proof.
Exactly. And that's what's revolutionary about the C-47 in terms of airborne operations.
It can only be used for that. You can chuck supplies out, but
but exactly. So that
it can only transport.
That airframe changes the game and means that you aren't scrounging Sterlings, although they do scrounge Sterlings.
Yeah.
You aren't scrounging obsolete types.
No, of course, get it.
Yeah.
And you're not having to go in Whitleys anymore.
No, exactly. And for Lord Louis Mountbatten at Combined Operations Headquarters, this is the absolute ticket. He's a new broom. He's pulled off a tactical triumph for strategic effect. All three services cooperating together.
Yep.
Delivering technical advantage and a stack of lessons for the future conduct of the war, particularly literal intervention.
Yep.
And Combined Operations Headquarters becomes so much more ambitious as 1942 proceeds. Saint-Nazaire, Op Chariot, which is costly but incredibly consequential.
Yep.
And we've seen here that the cost, there are VCs on Chariot because there's more casualties, right? You've got the Dieppe Raid, ironclad on Madagascar.
Yes.
Combined Operations Headquarters is now the direction of travel for what the Allies are going to have to do to win the war.
Yeah.
There we are. Good news from February 1942 and the shape of things to come.
Oh, what a story.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
It's absolutely brilliant.
And I will read Frost chapters for our patrons, which is another reason to subscribe.
Yes.
I know you've got to the end of this and that we can't tempt you with a further cliffhanger actually on a cliff. But if I'm going to read, I'm not going to do the brogue for the chapters. It would break my heart to try and read the whole thing in that terrible Scots accent. But I'll read the relevant chapters of I Dropped Too Many, which will go up on our Patreon for our subscribers.
Fabulous.
Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks, Jim. That was tons of fun.
Brilliant fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing all those notes. That's absolutely tip-top.
Utrique Paratus. Ready for anything. Parachute Regiment. They're a load of jocks, really. Kappa Phi or whatever it is.
Anyway,
thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you again very soon. Cheerio.
Cheerio.